to fucking fix it. I'm not throwing money at it. I don't have money to throw at it. Why would you even say that? In what world do I have money to throw at things? Bro, my name is Delphine. What a fucking name. When 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 one of your decisions influence Delphine's personality, one or two symbols will light up at the top of the screen. The star or the globe. The sun. That's more than two. The moon. Along the edge, your decisions are neither good or nor bad. However, the sum of your choices always lead to different scenarios. It's impossible to lose, and along the edge, the branching of the story opens different narrative hypotheses, shaping your adventure according to your choices. Your progress is saved automatically. You won't be able to change the decision you've made. Choose wisely. Dr. Dron. So, you're determined then? Yes, I think I need a fresh start. This inheritance, it's the perfect opportunity to finally turn the page. I know you're convinced yourself of that, but are you sure you really know what you wish to achieve with this move? After all, you recently went through a major trauma, and there's still a lot of ground to cover. Between you and me, you know what I think of your decision, but I can't prevent you from leaving. Have you found a job there yet? Yes, I have. Substituting for a math teacher at the village middle school. A maternity leave. 6 months. That should give me enough time to get my bearings. Don't you mind giving up your PhD? Your research career was quite promising. I do, but I have no choice. I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know. I guess if it turns out to be a mistake, I can always come back. There's no harm in giving it a shot. I see. One last thing. I know your relationship with Frank is quite tense. It is, the breakup still recent, and I always counted on his support. After so many years together, I need time. I suppose you're aware that you are about to break your all ties with him. Probably for good. Are you sure you won't regret it later? Did you at least inform him of your plans? It's none of his business anymore. He knows it's not that easy. It's none of his business anymore. No, I didn't. And it doesn't concern him anymore. Alright. Listen, Delphine. You have got my number. Please don't be afraid to call me if you feel the need. I'm counting on you. Okay, I will. Then I suppose all I can do is wish you the best when you are leaving. Tomorrow. August. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm headed to my family's house. My grandmother's. I didn't know her, and I know I never will. My mother had cut all her ties with that side of the family, the only side since I never knew who my father was. I remember the birthday cards, though my mother had hidden them between two piles of laundry in the linen closet. If the bond was broken, it wasn't my grandmother's fault. And here I am 10 years later inheriting a big house 300 miles away when I, too, have severed all contacts with my own mother. That's what they call karma, isn't it? The other PhD students asked me to meet them at the bar. I could also go see Frank to say goodbye. I told Dr. Jordan that I didn't want to tell him I was leaving, but this is my last chance to do things right. Am I really sure of my choices? Of course, I could also just go home. What should I do? Go to the bar, bro. I went to the bar to meet the other students. I didn't have the heart to refuse. I have never really fitted in with this small group. In fact, they only really think about their own academic success. I know I'll miss my research, but on the other hand, I never saw myself having a brilliant career. Despite their cool, laid-back appearance, they'd slaughter each other for an article in Nature, probably without even batting an eyelid. I never really belonged in this environment. I only wanted to advance science, to do my bit for the future. It sounds like a cliche, but it's the truth. Science will have to make do without me, and I don't think it'll be missing out on much. I thought they wanted to surprise me, to throw me a leaving party. Then again, I haven't told anybody except for my research supervisor. He seemed a bit stunned at first, and then not too bothered. I should go. I've got a long drive tomorrow. That's it. Everything I own is packed in a couple of boxes. I wish I felt sad about leaving it, but actually I don't really care. My last night here, I don't know what I hope to find there. A fresh start? That's what I'm trying to convince myself. Perhaps Dr. Durant is right. Maybe I'm just avoiding the real issue. Did my mother feel the same when she left my grandmother's village 30 years ago? And am I following in her footsteps despite myself? The difference is that she had me. I'm alone. I'm overthinking this. I have taken my decision. Can't afford to go back. I can't undo what I've done. I'll try to get some sleep. 300 miles. I got up way too early. It's going to be a long journey. Little by little, civilization slowly gives way to empty space. This highway is replaced by intercepting small roads, and clear directions given on the major routes became a hit and miss search for clues, which gets more and more arduous as I near my destination. The road goes through the village, which I cross in a few moments. I thought I was getting away from agitation of the city, but all this peace and serenity feels like it's hiding something sinister, almost ominous. After a couple of miles, I turn into a dirt track overrun with weeds. I go through the gate, marking the limits of the family domain. Then on the right, I see a small stone house. That must be the lodge where the wardens, a couple, live. It was specified in the estate accounts the notary made me sign. I decided to leave the car there. I don't feel like driving all the way back in reverse if the tracks turn out to be a dead end. Walking a bit further, I see a man come towards me. He's carrying a rifle and holds a dead rabbit by its ears. Mr. Borton. Hello, miss. You're on private property. Did you take a wrong turn? Hello, I'm looking for the Delator family domain. Am I at the right place? Oh, you're not lost then. Why are you here? I'm Dauphine. Yeah, granddaughter. German Bertine, I'm the warden. Nobody told me you were coming. Is the house open? No, well, yes. It's been a couple of months now since she passed away. My wife, Gilbert, and I, we have made sure everything's weatherproofed, but the door isn't locked. Really? Well, the only path goes past our house, and there aren't many visitors anyways. The villagers usually avoid coming up here, you know. Why? Why do they avoid the house? People get worked up over nothing around here. An old lady living alone in a big house who doesn't go out much, that's enough to make them talk. Thank you, I'll be in the house if you're looking for me. I'll send you my wife. She'll help you open the shutters. Just follow the path. It's not very far, and you can't get lost. See you later, then. Around 100 yards further on the path in the woods ends, and I see the house standing in the kind of clearing. Although several generations of Deltors have lived here, for me this is the first time have seen the estate. The building is impressive, and with the tower at the center of the facade, the last vestige of an early castle, and surely the origin of the family name. As promised, the door isn't locked and opens onto the entrance hall, plagued in darkness. As I cross the threshold, the chill of the old stones strike me, slicing through the searing heat of the midday sun shining over the garden. Despite the gloom, I can make out the edge of the room, intimidating in its vastness, which makes a change from the tiny city apartments I'm used to. I'm struggling to open one of the windows to let the light in when a voice from the entrance scares me. Miss? An old woman stands at the threshold. Yes? My husband told me you were coming to the house. Are you planning to stay the night? Much more than the night. I'm moving in. Oh, and please call me Daphne. I'll get more than enough miss when I start work at the school. Did they tell you about this succession? So you're Madam's granddaughter then. She used to talk about you a lot, you know. I remember you it was a long time ago. You were still a baby when Miss Sophie left. Madam never got over it. Well, I'm sure you have got a lot to tell me, but can you do it while you help me open the shutters? Oh, of course, I'm sorry. So, are you moving into the castle? You're going to work in the village school, aren't you? Yes, I'm a math teacher. I'm going to teach there. Well, at least for the next 6 months, as a substitute. So tell me, how do you want to do this? I mean, I know you have been working for my grandmother, but I'm not sure if I can afford your services, if you see what I mean. The inheritance barely left me enough to cover the cost of the house for a couple of years. Oh, don't worry, girl and I retired 2 years ago, but Madam didn't forget us in her will. She was kind enough to leave us the lodge to live out our days. We'll help for as long as we're able. My husband and I, we have done this all our lives. Hard work doesn't scare us. Anyways, we'd be bored with nothing to do all day. Alright, your help is very welcome, but I can't ask you to work for free. That's great news. Without help, I don't know how I'd manage to get everything done in such a big house. And we'll be happy to give you a hand. Would you like me to get you some groceries from the market tomorrow? I used to do it for Madam. She didn't go out much, not after Miss Sophie left. No, don't worry, I'll go. It'll give me a chance to check the village out. Miss Bertine helps me put clean sheets on my bed, the windows now wide open, let out the musty air while ushering in the golden light of the summer's evening setting sun. Then she leaves me alone for my first night in the new house. I spend the evening watching the antique television in the kitchen while eating a leftover sandwich I brought earlier on the highway. I tried to sleep far from the reassuring sound of the cars and the lights of the city. The forced silence only broke by the unsettling squawk of floorboards and the hoot of a hunting owl. I'm predictably grouchy the next morning, and if the sight of the empty fridge hadn't driven me to action, I would have succumbed to the inviting comfort of the sofa and wasted my day napping in the living room. The market, it wasn't exactly what I imagined. We all have romantic notions of picturesque low country markets, but this one was purely functional. Nothing romantic about the butcher's stall or the fishmonger's radio tuned in far too loud to a local station that seemed to broadcast at this hour of the day a playlist of songs that used to be popular but are now utterly outdated. I'm buying some bread when someone barges in front of me. Give me 3 baguettes and 2 loaves of nut bread. Sliced, please. I'm sorry, but I believe it was my turn. This will only take an instant, don't worry. I don't care if it takes an instant or 10 minutes. If you're not from around here, are you? Does that have to do with anything? Listen, miss, you really ought to educate yourself before you start making a scene. It's kind of embarrassing. See, I'm done already. It didn't take that long. Did it? Have a nice day. The man slips a bill into the baker's hand before disappearing down the street. Seriously, who was that guy? You're not from around here, are you? He's Maltier's son. His family owns the sawmill that employs half the town, and the other half are all in business with him, one way or another. Does that give him the right to behave like that? You shouldn't cross the Maltiers. You know, they have been in the town for generations, and people say all sorts of things about them. What kind of things? Trains, accidents, businesses suddenly going bankrupt. People are pretty suspicious here. It's messed up, really. Well, this is the countryside. I suppose a lot of people here still believe in that kind of stuff. People are free to think what they like. I'm leaving the area soon, so you'll understand I don't want to get involved. The others told me to watch out for that family, and I don't want any trouble. I see. Whew, I realize I've already been here a few days, and I haven't taken the time to visit the house properly. With my busy schedule, I've confined myself to the main rooms, going from bedroom to kitchen or the living room. I have to take advantage of the weekend to give myself the grand tour. Maybe I'll learn more about my grandmother and this family that I know so little about. I could try asking Miss Bortine a few questions too. Up until now, she's been very evasive. If I go see her outside her work hours, she might be more inclined to answer me. She's a very discreet woman. Somehow she manages to never be in the same room as me. If I leave the kitchen for a while to take a shower, for example, when I come back, I'll always find the debris from my breakfast has been cleared away. The table has been wiped and the dishwasher is gently humming. I've told her several times not to make my bed, that I am perfectly capable of doing it myself. She acknowledges me but keeps on making it anyways. I guess she might enjoy a friendly visit. Where should I start? Question Mrs. Bortine. Check the tower. Check my mother's old bedroom. Fucking tower, boy! I couldn't find the entrance to the tower. I searched inside and outside the house, but no doors seemed to lead into it. After randomly exploring the corridors of the rooms, I had to admit defeat. I have to ask Miss Bettina about this mystery. However, while I was searching the damn entrance, my feet took me down the basement where I discovered a treasure trove of old wines. most recent bottles were around 30 years old. I guess my grandmother wasn't much of a drinker, and the wine cellar must have remained untouched since her husband passed away. Did my mother come here during her teens, defying her parents' rules to steal a bottle to share with her friends from the village? Was I convinced during one of those parties celebrating by sacrificing these rare vintages on the altar of youth with my mother, Sophia, not sober enough to resist the charm of some local young farmer? When I was old enough to ask her, she always told me with dismissive waves of her hand that my father was from the village and hadn't not wanted to recognize a child he hadn't asked for. All in all, she said we were better off without him. Mary, bring a bottle of Miss Protein. As I take a bottle from the shelf to decipher the dusty label, it slips in my hand and smashes to the ground. Suddenly, I am overwhelmed by the feeling as though I was violating something sacred, trampling the memory of my grandfather who might have selected this precise vintage to celebrate something special. I began to question my intentions. Am I offering this bottle as an honest mark of affection towards a kind old lady, or am I planning to get Miss Bertine drunk so I can extract information from her? No, this isn't my style, and I'm not sure it would be such a good idea to get drunk in the middle of the day. What should I do next? My grandmother lived alone in this big house, so she kept most of the rooms shut and just stayed on the ground floor on the left side of the building. I've taken over her living quarters, and the nights getting colder. I'm glad I don't have to keep my whole house warm. I look over the other rooms, the parlors on the ground floor, and the multiple bedrooms above. Everything seemed frozen in time. The furniture is covered with white linen sheets, perhaps waiting for the better days to return, like the days before was a window when my mother still lived under her roof. Her old bedroom hasn't changed. It's still the room of a teenage girl. Even if I can see that someone had hastily made room for me, the baby about to be born, there are still band posters from another age pinned to the wall, and the crib where I might have spent my first few nights before my mother decided to leave. But there aren't any white linen sheets to protect the furniture in this room, and it looks as though it's been cleaned up very recently. Good morning, Mrs. Boosting. How are you doing? Oh, hello, Miss Delphine. My joints ache a bit today. It must be the colder weather. Summer always goes so fast. It almost fall already. Can you believe it? But that's enough about me. You haven't come around here to listen to an old woman complaining about her aches and pains. How can I help you? I couldn't find the entrance to the tower. You know how to get inside? Well, I could not say, miss. No, I could not tell you how to get in if my life depended on it. Your grandmother said that it had been walled up and that we were better off not knowing what was inside. Do you mean that no one's been inside the tower for what, 30, 40 years? Goodness me, much more than that. I'm 67. I've been living here since I was 14, and that tower has always been that way. So nobody knows what's in the tower, but surely you must have some idea, don't you? You must have heard talk in the village, right? Well, it's just gossip. A waste of breath is what it is. What are you talking about? Please don't press me, miss. With all due respect, I won't dirty the late grandmother's name with that nonsense. Something else? Tell me what it was like in the old days before my mom left, I mean. The end was already in sight when your mother left, if I say so, miss. There were only your grandmother, Madame and Miss Sophie living here. Your grandmother died when your mother was still a little girl. An illness that took him without warning. The doctors could not do anything for the poor man. But back when I arrived here, things were different. There were lots of people living in the castle, cousins, uncles, aunts, and a whole gaggle of children. So what happened? I don't really know. It just happened. There was unexplained deaths and accidents. Some of them left the area, and we never heard from them again. Everything started to go downhill when the Maltese bought the sawmill. Do you really think that's linked? I mean, there's no logical connection between buying a sawmill and those accidents. I couldn't say, miss. All I know is that when the Maltese flourish, the Deltors wither. I met Maltese son at the bakery. That loud. Loud. It's none of my business, of course, but you should be careful with him. He's a good for nothing who spends his time doing God goodness knows what in his car. I agree with you. You're right. He acted like a jerk with me. Ah, you see? Exactly my point. Now, while we were talking about the past, maybe you'd like to see some old photo albums? Absolutely. Tell me where they are and I'll take a look at them. Thanks. They are in the cupboard in the living room. You'll see there are even some of your great grandfather's old photos. Sorry, I didn't mean to disrupt you. I'll come back later. Look at these photos. I found the photos where Miss Petunia told me they would be, and I discovered that my great grandfather had an early passion for the dark room of that his photographs from the last century and survived time. The family was larger than then, with a swarm of children in the gardens and large tables at the holiday gatherings. If worry could be read on the faces of the adults in the future ruin and the elections of the House Deltor could already crack the walls and yellow the wallpaper. It didn't show in these old daguerreotypes. I found a couple of pictures of my mother, first as a child, then as a young girl, then discovered of this treasure moved me. I had never before seen what she looked like when she was younger. The final picture showed her belly getting rounder and rounder, and then nothing. No more photos, as if nothing worth documenting had happened during the last 30 years. Alright. I visited the house, gone into every room, and I noticed all the furniture has been covered with white linen sheets. Yes, it was Madame, your grandmother, who asked me to close most of the rooms. She lived alone in the house, and she never had any visitors. It was to prevent the furniture from being damaged. Why are you asking? Do you want me to open up the rest of the house? No, that's not why I was asking. One of the rooms, I'm guessing it was my mother's old bedroom. Why wasn't it closed like the others? It was what Madame wanted. You know, Miss Sophie left. It broke her heart. She was never the same afterwards until the day she died. She never gave up hope that your mother would come back. She asked me to make up her room every day just in case, she'd say. The conversation with Bertines aroused my curiosity. The tower, the village, the Maltese, and I had thought my recollection would lead to a life of fuck that. I have to admit that's what's going on in the village. It's far more intriguing than I anticipated. Unfortunately, the realities of everyday life catches up with me before I have the time to look into it. I'm obligated to spend the last days of August preparing for my classes at the middle school, and I hadn't realized how much work that would involve. I spend most of the time shut up in the house, buried in the textbooks for all the new classes I've been given. Then the first day of school arrived, and I was quickly found on my bearings for my new job. I never had believed that I'd get decide to take advantage of the weekend and go back to the market, I'm sure someone will finally agree to tell me more than the tidbits I've managed to gather up now, especially about the Marti family, who seem to be fascinated half the village and terrified the other half. I should start with the baker if she has the extra season. Alright, she can't be far off. She would not be taking much of a risk sharing some gossip with me, seeing as she's leaving until next summer. I see the routine on the other side of the square. He's talking. Someone sells together. I could go over to so that he has to introduce me, but the bakery is about to close, and I might not get another chance to push me some good share here. Hello, Miss Bouchard. Hello, Miss. You're in luck. I was just about to close. Are you finishing this season soon? Yes, I am. I ran a bit more into September than we planned, but that's it. We're calling it a day. 2 weeks vacation, then we're moving to the Alps. My husband and I, we're doing the ski season there. Well, that will make a change. I'm glad to be leaving. The money's not bad, but I don't like the atmosphere around here. So will it be one baguette as usual? Yes, but I wanted to ask. Yes? What do you know about the Martis? I told you I don't want to talk about them. I don't want any trouble. I really need to know. Nobody wants to tell me anything, and seeing as you're leaving soon, you seem like a nice young lady, so listen to me carefully. She takes me by the arm, puts her face close to mine, and whispers, the Martis, they're sorcerers. That's why they got the whole village under their thumb. If you do something they don't like, bad things happen. How do you think I got this place? Bakers don't take 3 months vacations. Mr. Blanchard, the owner of the shop, 3 months in the hospital, psycho. The lot, the poor man, he fell down the stairs. The other shopkeepers, they told me he'd had words with the mayor. With the mayor? Well, yes. He's the mayor of the village. Didn't you know? No, I didn't. Apparently they were talking when he ring some petty squirrel about the land register, a fence that wasn't at the right place or something, and then bam, the next day he falls down the stairs just like that. Do you really believe all that? Well, I'm a bit doubting, Thomas. I only believe what I see. But you know, it's troubling. Thank you for talking to me. I'll be discreet, don't worry. Well, now you know as much as I do. You be careful of them. I'd hate if it was my fault that something happened to you. Don't worry about me. Goodbye, Mrs. Bouchard. I'm glancing around for my Mr. Routine and his mysterious companion, but they've already gone. Too bad. Around the shops, trying to find out about the maltesers as I buy fresh contents for my refrigerator. Unfortunately, now that I've been identified as the young heiress, their tongues are tied. The villagers have become surely polite yet distant. As I carry my groceries to the car, it begins to rain. And it doesn't stop for the whole weekend and the beginning of next week. I'm at school teaching geometry to my 6th grade class, and naturally finally intervenes to give me the sun back. But the respite of short lives when a bit later I discover a summons to the principal's office is in my locker. Even though I'm now on the other side of the fence and I no longer risk a detention, I admit it worries me a little, adding a sense of menace to this otherwise radiant September day. When I venture into the principal's office to discover Mr. Chasnut, the principal, in a heated debate with someone who I guessed is the irate mother of one of my pupils. The poor man is ashen. He cowers behind his desk, and he's so hunched up in the big leather chair, it's as if he's melting into the upholstery. Please, you must admit that your demands are most unusual, to say the least. We have had nothing but praise for Miss Dautor's professionalism and her devotion to the teaching of mathematics. Ah, here she comes. Which fixes me with them imploring gaze as if I was his only hope of salvation. Did you want to see me? Yes, please take a seat. Let me introduce you to Miss fucking name, Jean Baptist's mother. You know, one of your 6th grade students. Hello, Miss Levaque. It's nice to meet you. I'm Daphne, Miss Duponi's substitute. I'm really very satisfied with your son's work. He's an excellent student. Are you kidding me? You must realize I'm not here to talk about my son's math skills. Look, Mr. Chestnut, I'm not going to exchange words with this. Anyways, we had an agreement, you and I hope you'll keep your word. I hear the director mutter in his beard. But we hadn't agreed to anything. I don't know what you're make of the situation. After a few seconds, that feels like hours. I give up and say, what exactly is the problem? I'm sure we can find a solution. I'm not sure how to tell you this. Miss Lotus wishes to remove her son from your class. I do not understand. Are you insinuating that there's something wrong with my teaching? Why would you want to remove your son from my class? This has nothing to do with your teaching. Be reasonable. You can't ask us to change the classes just like that for no good reason. For no good reason? Ugh, that's it. You're falling under the Voltor's spell too. That family of pagans. You arrive in the town and just like that you think you can get away with anything. But me, I can see what you're up to, and I won't be fooled like the others. Do you want me to say it? What you are? A witch. In that case, it may be unwise to make me angry. Those tales of witchcraft have nothing to do with me. Calm down. I don't mean you any harm. I don't appreciate you insinuating, and I will not have my name associated with your archaic superstitions. I am a scientist, and I assure you that I don't believe in any of this nonsense. And you, Mr. Chestnut, I hope you won't let yourself be influenced by these medieval beliefs. If my teaching doesn't suit you, then no doubt there are private schools that may even share your convictions and who would be delighted to aid your son to their ranks. I would happily continue to explain myself, but Mr. Chestnut interrupts me to cut short of the discussion. You see, I was sure that if we discussed it rationally, we could come to a consensus. I trust you are reassured. Mr. I hope you rely on you to take good care of the dear Jean Baptist progress. Of course, sir. I'll pay special attention. Well, oh, you are in it together. There's no other explanation. You, de Voltor, you won't get away with this. You haven't heard the last of me. Without warning, she leaves the room, slamming the door behind her. There's an awkward silence between the quickly broken by Jean. This is the third time she's burst into my office for this nonsense. I believe I owe you one, Daphne. You have really got a nerve. It's my job. You're welcome, Miss Chassis. Soothing parents' irrational fears is also part of the job description. When I finally get out of the school, it's almost dark and rain is pouring down again. As if today's events hadn't already annoyed me enough, I can't believe that woman came to criticize my work. And on what grounds? I mean, could she have been more bogus? Seriously, this isn't the Middle Ages. I'm sure they'd have burnt me at the stake for less back then, because of some stupid superstition. I have lit a cigarette and I'm sitting by the window, brooding over these thoughts. When suddenly the headlights of a car illuminates the bend of the road. To my surprise, it turns at the gate and comes up the lane to my house. Who would be visiting me this late? I think I recognize a grubby gray van at the ladder of its roof, and hastily patched up right wig mirror. How is this possible? What is he doing here? I ran down the stairs. I opened the front door. Frank? There he is, my ex-lover, at the door, drenched by the relentless rain. My heart sinks at the thought of seeing him, talking to him once again, just when I resigned myself to the fact that he was a remnant of the past. First happy, then not so much. How did he know? How did he find me? I hadn't even told him I was leaving. Nothing. How long do you plan on making me wait in the rain? We need to talk. But what are you doing here? Frank stands in the hall, watching me, clearly annoyed. I'm fine, thanks for asking. I know we broke up, but didn't even cross your mind to call and let me know that you were moving to the other side of the country? I mean, what do you mean? Come on, explain. Oh, it's none of your business. It's got nothing to do with you. You said it yourself. We broke up. Alright, then tell me why I'm still getting your mail. My mail? Yes, a letter from your mother. I know your relationship's difficult, so I figured it's probably important. And then I had to track you down, which wasn't exactly child's play. It would have been easier if you'd left me your new address. Since I'm between jobs, I thought I'd take a few days off. Smiled at me, looking amused, then pretended to check out the room. He adds, funny, I've been dreaming of a weekend in a bed and breakfast, or should I say a castle and breakfast? So what do you think? It's a little bigger than our old flat on the main street. Do you ever get lost on the way to the bedroom? You know, I've always thought you were a bit of a toff. Wouldn't you agree, Lady Dauphine? Quit talking crap. What, don't you like Lady Del Toro? What about Lady Daphne or Your Grace? Your Grace. Sounds perfect, don't you think? Frank is wandering around the hall inspecting the furniture and ornaments. If there's one thing he's particularly good at, it's the way he can defuse tense situations. Do you mind if we talk about it tomorrow? I've got to say, I'm shattered. As he speaks, he pulls a letter from his inside pocket and places it on the chest drawer in the hall. Your mother's letter. I know it's not easy for you, but if you need to talk about it, I'm right here. Thank you. Well, if it's okay with you, I'm going to crash on your sofa for a few hours. There's like 4,000 rooms up there. I can't let you sleep on the sofa. I'll set you up in the guest room. Even better, show me the way. I wake up early the next morning. Frank must still be asleep upstairs and won't be awake for a couple of hours if I know him. I don't feel like getting up yet, so I decide to stay snuggled under the quilt for a few more minutes. I think about what happened yesterday, and how odd the situation is. Frank is fast asleep in a room just a few yards from mine. I can't believe he came all this way just to bring me a letter from my mom. Is he regretting our breakup? Is this letter just a pretext to see me again? I was ready to never see him again after everything we'd gone through. We met almost 10 years ago. It was so unlikely. We had such completely different lifestyles. He was a carpenter, and I was a freshman at the university science major. I just arrived in town. There was a party in the aquatics. At our acquaintances. know why I went either. I guess when you're 20 years old, you jump at any occasion to go out. I guess the idea of escaping my student digs was enough to convince me to put on a pretty dress and jump on a bus. Frank shouldn't have been there either. He was working on a particularly demanding project, but our hostess had insisted until he had given up and agreed to come. There was something even science can't explain, I guess. We connected immediately. Then it was the same old story a few years later. We moved in together. It was stupid paying two rents when we were living with each other all the time. 2 years ago, we took things a step further. Frank's small carpentry business was doing well. My PhD was on track. The subject just came up by itself. Frank asked me if I wanted to have a baby for him. It was so simple. He was so sure about it. He was so sure of everything, of the strength of our relationship, that he didn't want to wait any longer, that it was the right time. I had cold feet at first, objecting, and that I wanted to finish my PhD first, that we could have to think about it, but he managed to convince me. It wasn't that hard. I loved him more than anything, and I knew that sooner or later I would want to start a family with him. Why wait? We were happy. And then, late in the pregnancy, a few weeks before the due date, I lost the child. They made me keep the lifeless thing in my belly for days until the doctor decided to induce labor. They didn't understand what had gone wrong. Frank stayed with me at every step. He held my hand as I expelled death from my womb. The doctor refused to let me see the baby, objecting that I was too frail to handle it, but I saw Frank's eyes when they pulled the motionless and silent corpse out of me. I clung to him as much as I could, but there was a chasm in my chest. I didn't want to admit it to myself, but I knew something was irrevocably broken. Frank decided to incinerate the baby and scatter the ashes. Burying the body meant naming it, making it, in a way, exist, and that was much more than we could bear. In any case, I was incapable of making any decisions. When the first shock wave and the tsunami it created in our lives finally receded, I realized our relationship was doomed. We did all we could to overcome the misery, but sooner or later we had to face facts. We broke up without a fight. We agreed we couldn't go on like that. Frank kept our old apartment, and I took a furnished flat in the meantime. Then a couple months later, the notary told me my grandmother had just passed away, and she had bequeathed everything to me. I take a quick shower, then go downstairs, and the noise from the coffee machine tells me that Frank found his way to the kitchen. Mom's letter is still propped on the chest drawers and all. I'll have to open it sooner or later. What should I start with? Let's read the letter. The envelope is dog-eared and yelling as though it had traveled a lot. The stamp is foreign. The letter tells me that it was probably posted somewhere in Asia. I open it with a shaking hand. It's the first news I've heard from her for years. It's been, 5, 6 years? I can't remember the last time we talked. Frank has never even met her. She was always a terrible mother, extremely controlling, but also glacially cold and strict. Sounds like my ex-wife. And the Asia part sounds like me. What's up? Did you almost fall asleep? That's crazy. Go to bed. Sleep is good. No. Here. You want me to share my screen? I mean, I'm streaming it on Twitch too if you want to watch it there, but when I turned 18, I got a university scholarship which allowed me some financial independence, which in turn quickly became total independence. I couldn't put up with her interference in my life any longer. Little by little, we lost touch. One year, I made an excuse not to visit her at Christmas. The next year, I just sent her a card. I started to filter her calls, and one day the phone stopped ringing. The bond was broken. The years have passed without me noticing her absence. When I tried to contact her, she had disappeared without leaving an address. I must admit, I didn't try very hard to track her down. And now, out of nowhere, she comes back into my life with this letter. Her nervous, jerky handwriting hasn't changed. The content of the letter, though, is as cryptic as it is brief. Delphine, please don't accept the inheritance from your grandmother. Don't go back there. You'll only put yourself in danger. Regards, Sophie Doltor. That's closing says a lot about her tenderheartedness. I wasn't expecting your mommy who loves you, but well, Mom never talked about the time she spent here with my grandmother at the castle. It seemed obvious to me that something had happened. But what? But what? That is the question. I turned this over in my mind as I entered the kitchen. I wish I was as pretty as this girl. Frank holds a steaming mug of coffee and it is gazing out through the French windows. So you managed to figure out the coffee machine. You know me, without my morning coffee, or caffeine, I'm a total zombie. Did you sleep well? Very well. Thanks for asking. The bed's comfortable, and the silence of the countryside is refreshing. It's been ages since I've slept so well. Listen, Delphine, I won't beat around the bush. I'm not here for the scenery. You must have figured that out by now. I think it was a mistake to break up. I get the funny feeling you're going to blow me off straight away, but I have to ask, do you think we could try again? The female answer would be, I don't know. Hmm. What do I mean, he's a handsome boy. He's a pretty sexy man. And I have 10 years of experience with this man. Just put just put this into perspective. You tried to have a child with this man. There was literally nothing wrong with your relationship. Like, this man did not beat you. This man like held your hand as you pushed a dead baby out of your body. This is a pretty good man. Crystal, what do you think I should say? Two? You think no? Explain your answer right now. So I'm barely awake. Wake up. It's not even like it's only 2 in the morning. I don't know what I'm answering. I'm gonna say yes. Yes, I think we should try. That's what I was thinking too, but now that I'm here, I'm not sure I'm not that sure anymore. It's going to take some time. To my astonishment, his face relaxes all at once. He grins at me and changes the subject. So seriously, what have you been doing here all this time? I tell him about my new job as a teacher. He's more interested in hearing about the village and insists on knowing every detail of the unbelievable story about the Maltese and the tower with no entrance. I also tell him about Mom's letter. He's not sure what to make of it either. Right, well, I have got to say, your stories are very exciting, but also kind of worrying. Here's what I suggest. Whatever happens, I'm going to stick around here for a while. I don't have any contracts in the near future, and I can afford to give myself a couple of weeks. After that, we'll see if I find some work around here. I'll stay a few more months. If not, as if there's anyone waiting for me to come home, and it would give us time to think things over. Does it bother you if if I stay at the castle for a week or two, just until I find room somewhere? You can stay. Did you think I'd throw you out? Of course you can stay for a few days until you get your bearings. Thanks. It's kind of you not to make me homeless. Don't thank me. It's the least I can do. So how do we do this? I don't want to get under your feet. There's no reason we'd be in each other's way. The house is plenty big enough for the both of us. I was just thinking I'd better tell the wardens you're here before I leave. We don't want Mr. Boti to shoot you like a rabbit if he sees you hanging around the house. That's very reassuring. Don't be silly. They're very nice. You'll see. I have really got to get going. Enjoy your day. You too. I try to put my thoughts in order as I drive to school. There's quite a lot to digest. The day flies by, fast as an arrow. With everything that happened since yesterday, I'm having trouble keeping my mind on my work. When I get back to the castle, there's light and movement. Even if it's only temporary, I'm glad not to be alone for a while. It makes a nice change from my last few weeks of solitude. A few crackles in the hearth and delicious smells drift out of the kitchen. It's almost too perfect, and I have a hard time not taking advantage of Frank's kindness. He seems determined to see to my every need. Still, he manages to keep out of the way. We eat our meals together, but otherwise we get on with our own business in different parts of the house. As promised, about 10 days later, he tells me he's found a small furnished flat in the village, and he's moving in the next day. I'm sad to see him go, but I'll tell myself it's for the best. Days then weeks go by, and I slip back into my routine of the school, the village, and the house. I'm walking in the forest. The leaves have begun to redden, and the trees are clad in the bold colors of fall. It's getting late, but I'm too busy strolling along the path. I hadn't noticed, but night has begun to fall. I can see the castle and the end of the trail, but as I get closer, it seems to move away. I feel a presence behind me. I tell myself that I don't believe in that rubbish, but I can feel myself yielding to panic. I begin to run. The house has disappeared completely, and I find myself in some kind of meadow. There's something in the middle, something that softly reflects the moonlight. As I get closer, I discover it's an oval pool filled with silvery liquid. The image reflecting on the surface is me, but not me. At the same time, the sensation of dissonance gets stronger as I draw nearer. I can make out my facial features, but something has changed. I wear a sever skirt suit, not the kind of thing I have in my wardrobe. Something in my bear's bearing gives me an air of authority, of confidence. Maybe it's my hair wrapped in a tight bun, or the heavy fringes that now cover my forehead. I reach towards the mirror surface, my fingers stretching out at the reflection and start to tremble, as if it was responding. When my finger touches the cold and strangely clammy surface, it shatters into 1,000 pieces. For a few months, the darkness is absolute. I'm in some kind of garden. A heavy fog surrounds me. I'm moving towards a reddish light that pulls me towards it like a lighthouse in a muffled turbine storm. I can make out a statue, a sort of human-sized sphinx, carved in granite. There is something majestic yet profoundly sad in the hunched-up, impassive attitude of the creature. When I'm close enough to distinguish it, I realize the creature wears my face. I see my content's reflection in hers like a mirror. Then her eyes come alive and the imploring, helpless look seems to beg for mercy. I'm frozen in contemplation. My heart overflows, flowing with sadness and awe, when once again I feel this sickening presence like a warm breath on the back of my neck. I turn, struggling against the terror which invades me, and suddenly I'm falling endlessly. Darkness buries me. I wake up with a jolt. Chapter 3, October. I'm barefoot in the grass before me. The black mass of the forest seems to invade with me. I feel a hand on my arm. Miss, I heard a noise, so I came to check. Standing next to me, looking concerned. What am I doing here? What happened? A bad dream, miss. Just a bad dream. Come on, let me get you back to bed. It's the forest, right? The Sphinx calling me? Miss Boutine guides me back to my bedroom. I fall into a dreamless sleep. When I wake up, the sun is well up in the sky. I'm surprised to see Miss Boutine still here, asleep in a chair on the other side of the room. She's sleeping so peacefully I feel almost guilty waking her. Miss Boutine? Oh, Miss Daphne, I'm sorry, I must have dropped off. Dropped off? But what are you doing here? Oh, don't you remember? You gave us quite a fright last night. My Gerald heard you go out. He heard a noise and went to check what it was. When he saw it was you, he woke me up so I could take you back to bed. We are used to it. Anyways, it used to happen to Madam, your grandmother, quite often, once or twice a month. We'd find her wandering in the garden, and we had to put her back to bed. It must be the moon. The moon? Well, yes, she always did it when the moon was full. You know what they say, don't you, about the full moon? Yes, you must be right. Oh, well, the full moon always brings something within it. You have to beware of the full moon dreams. It's funny, you should mention it. I did have a strange dream, actually. I was in a forest, and then there was a mirror and a sphinx. A sphinx, you say? Did you know that's part of your family coat of arms? Maybe you saw it there. Well, perhaps the coat of arms. Yes, that's right. The blazon of the Gingerbreads. You should have a look. It's carved into the tower wall. A blazon within a tower and a sphinx. A bit like the one from the pyramids. I'll take a look when I get the chance, thanks. You're right, maybe I did see it there. Oh, miss, if you don't need me anymore, I'll get back to the lodge. General must be waiting for me to fix his lunch. Yes, of course, off you go. I know how to look after myself. In that case, have a great day, miss, and if you need anything at all, just let me know. I tell myself that this might be the moment to call Mr. Gerard. He said I could call him if I felt need, and I'm afraid that time has come. I'm not so sure he can do anything for me, but you never know. I pick up the phone and dial his number. Hello? Dr. Durant, it's Daphne. Oh, hello, Daphne. Why are you calling? Well, you told me I could call. True, but you hadn't been in touch since August, and now you're calling me on a Sunday morning. I'm guessing it must be important. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I can call you back tomorrow if you prefer. No, you were right to call me. That's precisely why I gave you this number, and I'll be more tuned in now than I would be between patients tomorrow. I quickly run through everything that happened since I've arrived, and with the recurring dream, and with what happened last night. Listen, Tafina, I understand why you've called me, but there's no cause for alarm. There's no proven treatment for somnambulism, and everything suggests that it's an isolated crisis, certainly due to your new environment. But you must have an explanation for or the dream, don't you? Well, for that, we can look into psychoanalysts. Tell me, how would you interpret it? It felt like a premonitory dream. I must be disturbed by all these. I don't know. The dream it was really strange. It almost felt like a promotion. You're entitled to your beliefs, Daphne, but let me remind you that you are in charge of your own destiny. Don't forget that even if this dream was indeed a premonition, as you say, don't be trapped by the idea that your fate can't be changed. Yes, you're right. Most of all, don't push yourself too hard. Take some time to think things over. You've been through a lot of changes. When you get your bearings, everything will be fine. You'll see. Thank you, Doctor. You told me your ex partner had paid you a visit. How do you see things there? I wonder if I wasn't wrong to throw away what we had. Surely our relationship deserves a chance. Thinking things through before rushing into them is important, but don't hesitate too much. You've got a chance to pick up the pieces, as they say. Frank seems to have made it very clear, and you must know he didn't come all this way just to say hello. Anyways, if you don't want to make it work, you'd better get on with it soon, because the chance might be smaller than you think. Very well, Doctor. So you mentioned a young man, Sustainless, is that right? I may have mentioned yes, but I really don't know what to think of him. On one hand, he was originally rude, but on the other, I do find the McCrees quite intriguing. I'm just trying to point out that Frank isn't the only alternative. Maybe you're more open to new opportunities than you care to admit. Me and Sustainless Martiz? That seems a bit far fetched, Doctor. I'm only reacting to what you've told me, but you'll allow me, I advise you not to rely on Frank being the solution to everything. And if you want your relationship to work, you need to make sure of your own well being first. One last thing before we get back to your own regular syllabus, yes. How do you feel about your new job? I like it a lot. I know I wasn't sure about it when I left, but believe it or not, I love my new job. It was perfectly normal to be anxious in your situation. I was sure you would enjoy it. You were right, teaching is really fulfilling. It's so satisfying to enable those young brains to get a grip on complex ideas. I'm glad to hear that. Hang on to that positive element. It will help you get through the trials life throws at you. All right, Dolphine, I'm sorry, but I have to go. I'm glad to hear that you are more at peace. No matter what, I don't think you have got any need to worry. It's perfectly normal to doubt yourself and to need time to get your bearings. I'm glad to hear you say that. As for your sleepwalking episode, be alert. Don't be alarmed. You told me about the wardens living nearby. Perhaps you could ask them to be on their guard in case it happens again. Call me if you do ever feel yourself getting overwhelmed, and if needed, I'll refer you to a colleague in your area. Okay. Oh, and unless it's emergency, try to check the day of the week before you jump at the phone next time. Yes, of course, doctor. I'll try to limit my sleepwalking to weekdays from now on. All right, we'll say no more about it. Have a good Sunday. Thanks, you too. As I recovered from my night lolling on the sofa with a good book and a cup of tea, I hear someone knocking. I'm surprised to find Frank beaming at me on the porch and holding a bunch of flowers. Carnations, your favorite. When I saw them at the market, I thought of you right away. He hands me the flowers as he steps inside. How about a coffee? Sure. So how are things going? Do you like the village? He follows me to the kitchen. I put the flowers in a vase and turn on the coffee machine. Well, I'm doing alright. I got a couple of jobs, including some big roof repairs. What's great around here is that the people are so easy to work with. They are not constantly asking me to justify my decisions, and they don't have harebrained notions about how I should do my job. And you? How are you doing? My chat for a while. Passing, I tell him about my eventful night. I still kind of enjoy his company. 1 hour and 2 coffees later, Frank finally decides to get to the point. You told me about the tower with no door, do you remember? I've got to admit, I was pretty intrigued. Would you mind if I take a look? Not at all, help yourself. I'm as intrigued as you are and wondering what might be inside. In that case, I'll investigate and report back to you. Do you want me to check around for an old pipe? I think you ought to be properly equipped. Don't you, Sherlock Holmes? Very funny. I'm sure I can resolve the mystery of the yellow room. The Frank goes off to do his stuff, and I get back to my blanket and my thriller. He reappears late in the afternoon, his coat covered with dust and his shoes covered in mud. So from the look on your face, I'm guessing it wasn't elementary, my dear Watson? Nope, I have to admit defeat. So what are your conclusions? That there must be an entrance somewhere, but I could not find it. I tried to get in by the wall with the ladder, but the arrow slits are too narrow and too deep. I can't see anything inside, let alone get in unless I blow up the wall. Miss Boutine caught me doing my acrobatic act, so I took the chance to ask her a few questions. Apparently, she's got no idea what's inside either. I told you so. When I suggested getting in by the roof, she immediately advised me against it. Apparently, the roof hides another older stone ceiling, so no way in that way either. And thinking about the kind of scaffolding I'd need to get up there, I think I'll take her word for it. Well, at least you tried. Sure, well, I'd better go. I've got a big day tomorrow. Thanks for the coffee. You're welcome. See you later. See you. I didn't dream that night. Monday was particularly tiresome. I don't know if the students are conspiring to wind me up, or if it's just that I'm not completely over my disturbed weekend. Oh, God. Top it off, as I heard to the school gates, I see Miss Levaque glaring balefully at me as she waits for her son. I suppose she'll leap on the chance to give me a haircut. After my long day, I'm tempted to try to dodge her, even if it's not very professional. As I'm weighing up on the pros and cons, I realize she's already striding towards me. What should I do? Bracing myself for a dozen 15 minutes when I feel a hand on my arm. Ah, Miss Del Toro, look. I just wanted a word with you. What's the name of the child? The castle. At the witch's castle? You're not a witch, are you, miss? Do excuse him. As you can tell, he's not afraid to speak his mind. He adds with a wink. He takes after his uncle, I suppose. I crouch down to the child's height. Since I lived in the witch's castle, I must be a witch, right? He hides behind his uncle's leg, intimidated. Yes. In that case, I must definitely be one. But perhaps I'm the nice kind of witch, don't you think? Do they exist, Uncle Stan? Nice witches? Of course they do. Miss Del Toro is a teacher at the middle school. She knows what she's talking about. I stand up and notice Scissors is putting out his hand. I don't believe we've been formally introduced. Stasis milked here, but my friends call me Stan. Duffing Del Toro, but it seems you already know that. Of course, you must have noticed how fast news spreads around here. Daphne. May I call you Daphne? When my father heard something was going on at the castle, he had to know what was happening. I hope you'll excuse him. The poor man's obsessed with the Del Toros. But don't let that put you off. The rest of the family isn't cut from the same cloth. We must have a coffee together one of these days to get to know each other. I'm sure we have a lot in common. Before I have the chance to answer, he adds, by the way, did you receive your invitation to the cocktail party? Cocktail party? I do hope you'll come. My father always makes me attend, but it's atrociously stuffy. Uncle Stan, can we go for my snack? Yes, Perry. In a minute. Well, Junior wanted his snack, so we better go. Say goodbye to Daphne, Perry. Hey, my name's Perry Eves, not Junior. The child takes my hand. Will you come with us, Auntie Daphne? I think he might have adopted you. Auntie Daphne has things to do. She can't come with us this time. Come on, let's go home. You're driving. For real? Of course not. Daphne, it was lovely to meet you. See you soon. Within a few months, Stan and Junior... Within a few moments, Stan and Junior have disappeared in a sports car, and I'm left speechless on the sidewalk trying to sort out what just happened. When I get back to the house, I discover I have mail. Nugget square envelope containing an invitation to a cocktail party. I guess that's what Stainless was talking about. It looks like I've been invited to the reopening of the town hall gardens that have just been renovated. I bet all the cream of the local society will be there. So it could be an excellent opportunity to learn more about the Mateers. I could ask Frank to come with me, but I know this kind of social event isn't really his cup of tea. On the other hand, going on my own... I'll pick up the phone and ask Frank to come with me. Frank is very happy to hear from me. I'll need to persuade him. Very hard to convince him to come. D-Day arrives fast as I start to prepare for the evening. I'm confronted with a quandary. I can deduce from the elegance of the invitation card that proper attire is required, so I guess it's not a jeans and shirt kind of do. I don't own anything remotely appropriate for this kind of situation. After rummaging through drawers in my mother's room, I find 2 dresses that might be suitable. I just can't choose. On one hand, there's a long Empire line dress. I suspect that it was more to my grandmother's taste, criteria of elegance, to be honest. I can't imagine my mother wearing this by choice. It's pale blue, a color that generally suits my complexion. The other option is a black strapless dress, short and tight-fitting. I can totally see my mother wearing this. It's exactly the kind of thing she would have worn for nights out. Unlike the blue one, it leaves very little to the imagination between the bare shoulders and the length, or rather lack of length of the skirt. Which one should I choose? Obviously, the strapless black dress. It's a bit skimpy for October, but the weather seems warm enough. I might be a little cold, but I'll deal with it. It's not like I have 1,000 options. Do I stick with the sexy black dress or do I move to the blue dress? I'm gonna change my mind. No, I'm not convinced. Perhaps I should try the more conventional option. As I put on the other dress, I'm having second thoughts. Maybe the first one was better after all. I have to decide, or I'm going to be late. I can't do it. I'm changing my mind again. I should have trusted my instincts. My first choice was the right one. Now that I've dealt with the dress, I just need to sort out my hair. I pin it into an ugly updo and add a touch of makeup and a relief. I just have time to finish getting ready when I hear the blaring horn of Frank's van. I climb in a few minutes drive later. We're there. The town hall gardens are magnificent with the trees robed in the flaming colors of fall. There are already a lot of people gathered in the small glass room. I'm glad Flynn came. Having him next to me helps me find the courage to confront the crowd. The guests are all dressed up to the nines. The event looks more like a lavish wedding than a gathering in a small country village. The Marquis clearly didn't balk at the expense. Frank barely has time to get us a glass of champagne from the buffet before I am approached by a large man in a black suit. He's closely followed by a tail of haughty blonde women. It's reasonable to assume she's his wife. Yves Maltiter. Ah, good evening, young lady. You must be the castle's new owner. I'm so glad you came to our little party. I must confess I've been eager to learn a bit more about you. I see you didn't come alone. Good evening, sir. Yves Maltiter. Frank Duvall. Pleasure to meet you. Like the singer? Never mind. Forget I said anything. Pleased to meet you. Let me introduce you to my wife, Shalclyde Maltier. We'd like to have a threesome. Good evening, Miss Biltor. Daphne, pleased to meet you. Her icy handshake contrasts sharply with her husband's bonhomie. I can read the mixed good contempt and distance in her eyes. Odd. It looks like my daughter, Celine, has been ambushed by old Manure. He waves his hand towards a pretty young blonde woman across the path. She leans down to an old man in a wheelchair who's caught her by her wrist and seems determined to hang onto her as long as decency allows. As for my son, I believe you have already met. Yes, I have. Well, now that we're done with the introductions, let me get to the point. I must tell you my invitation wasn't without an alternative motive. As you'll see for yourself during the opening ceremony, we're very concerned about the preservation of our cultural heritage here in the village. As you may have heard, our relations with your grandmother were, how could I put it, strained. Yes, I've heard that. I imagine your Martinez's cost at the castle must be quite significant. If you would agree to open it up to visitors a few times a year, the town council may be able to help you out with some of those expenses. Your offer is certainly worth considering. It is, isn't it? I'm sure it's a win-win situation. The tower especially is an cultural marvel, a building so old and so well conserved. It's extremely rare, you know. It's almost criminal to keep it out of the public eye, and it would be absolutely tragic to see it fall in disrepair due to lack of maintenance. It's not the kind of decision one can take lightly. I have to think it over. Anyways, let me assure you that I have the very best intentions, and I hope with all my heart that you will move here. Well signaled a new corollary between our families. Can you tell me what happened exactly between the Maltese and the Deltiors? This village is a hornet's nest, and the smallest trifles can take on enormous proportions. My grandfather had a grudge against the Deltiors when I was born, and I'm not sure even he knows the origins of the quarrel. You're right, it doesn't matter anymore. We need to move on. My thoughts exactly. Look, I'd be delighted to continue our discussion, but unfortunately, duty calls. Have a nice evening. You too. The eyes of Montier disappears into the crowd. But now I know who the other members of the family are. I'll be able to question them directly. Solus is still dealing with the old man, and Clothide, her mother, has taken advantage of her husband's departure to move over to the buffet. I could also ask Frank what he thinks of all this. What should I do? Talk to Frank. Frank has taken cover near the buffet. He looks bored to death. I feel slightly guilty that I've inflicted this ordeal on him. I know perfectly well he hates this kind of occasion. I can see the relief on his face as I walk over to him. Are you okay? Surviving? Surviving? Yes, I guess so. It's only 6 out of 10 on the Merlot's wedding scale. 6 out of 10, that's not so bad. Well, we have crossed the pain threshold yet, but if you want to shorten my suffering, I'd be grateful. So is that it? Are we leaving? Not quite yet. Sorry, but I still got things to do. Okay. What should we do now? I didn't mean to talk to this bitch. So you mind if I'll go back to my guest? I don't know. Enjoy the buffet, maybe? I wish you a good evening. I'm dumbstruck as Kathleen turns away and returns to the conversation. I hadn't imagined she would be so hostile towards me. When she sees me approaching, so seizes her chance to manages finally to extract herself from Mr. Murray's clutches. As for an instant, her eyes are full of gratitude and relief. Then she comes towards me with a large smile. You must be Daphne Deltor. I'm Solus Montier, Susten's older sister. Pleased to meet you. The pleasure is mine. I was looking forward to meeting you. Stan told me you were delightful. I saw him with your... Stan told me about... Really, he told you about me? He did, and I wanted to apologize for his behavior. I know what he can be like around women. He probably won't like me telling you this, but I think you made quite an impression on him. He's barking. Me too. I must admit, he made quite an impression on me too. Someone beams at me. I knew it. Excuse my excitement, but so I'm delighted. You seem like a nice girl, reliable, and exactly the kind of person Stan needs. You know, he's never had much luck with women. I couldn't tell you why, but it feels right with you. And his relationship with our parents is quite strained. If you could shake himself free of the family a bit, it would do him a lot of good. The problem is that he's the kind of person that has to be pushed to commitment himself. I'm just saying there's no pressure, but I'm counting on you, Duffy. She burst out. But enough about my brother. Tell me about yourself. What do you do for a living? How do you like it here in the village? We talked for a good 20 minutes. Oh, poor Frank. So it seems kind of outgoing, but I can't decide if it's not all just a front, and her attention seems to wander quite often while, without notice, she disappears into the town hall, leaving me hanging. There's a ripple in the crowd. The guests are gathering around a platform. I suppose the unraveling ceremony is about to begin. Someone is walking against the current, pushing through the crowd in my direction. Delphine? Sis is carrying a glass of wine and looking rather drunk. You came, great. This isn't. Are you alright? Really isn't the time. Let me go. I know you're going to hate me, but I've been wanting to do this since we first met. I set eyes on you this summer at the bakery. Without warning, he takes me in his arms and leans me backwards. I look into his eyes and I understand perfectly well what is happening. I'm trying to hold him back, but exhaling wine fumes in my face. His mouth presses down on mine. Luckily, I'm saved by a rasping voice that stops stillness in his tracks. Oh, isn't it enough for you that you corrupt your youth? Next to us, glaring at him, commenting something. Calm down, Miss Livius. I was just leaving. If you just... Beatrice doesn't let me finish my sentence, but throws in the contents of her glass of red wine in my face. That's for you, you filthy. Surprised by the attack, I take a step back and stumble. I feel a sharp pain in my left hand. I feel my cheeks flush. A ball of heat seems to blaze into my chest. Filthy what? Filthy witch? Is that what you wanted to say? His helps me up. I feel something warm dripping down my finger and I realize I must have cut my hand when I fell. See, and now I'm injured. Are you happy? Since I'm a filthy witch, I'll curse you. You'll pay for what you've done to me tonight. Is that what you wanted? Are you satisfied? If I'm a sorceress, as you say, why not put my powers to good use? Daphne, your hand. Blood has been drawn. Careful with what you're about to. With preserved satisfaction, I watch Miss Living turn white as a sheet. I hold her glaze until she lowers her hand and turns away. Stan puts his hand on my shoulder and shakes me gently. Daphne, do you realize what? I cut him off. It's best. Enough now. Leave me alone. I stride to the bathroom to clean out my wound and wipe the wine from my face, and most of all, try to calm down. A few yards away, I see Frank, dumbstruck, the keys of the van in his hand. He must have witnessed the whole thing, but he knows me well enough not to try to prevent me from leaving. In the distance, on the platform, Yu's mistress has taken the microphone and is about to speak. My dear friends and neighbors, fellow citizens, we've come together to celebrate the start and fall seasons. As you all know, by tradition, this time of year is dedicated to reflection and remembrance. It's a time when we think of those dear to us who have moved on, who wait for us on the other side. But it's also a time of the offering, when we pray that nature and her invisible entities bring us a mild winter. That's why our craftsmen have worked so hard all summer in preparation of this celebration, so that we today bring to the fruits of our efforts. As we leave summer behind us to enter winter, this time of offering, as I said, seems like the ideal moment to renew our pact with our protectors, those invisible forces who have allowed our traditions to survive centuries after centuries, not to disappear at the whim of invasions and external influences, and who bring us good fortune, happiness, and prosperity every year. So I'm proud to represent you this physical representation of our pact, this statue symbol of our community that was worn down by the years and the weather has now been remade by the masterful hands of our exceptional local craftsmen. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you the Sphinx. Chapter 4, November. She was transferred to intensive care last night, and she died this morning. The doctors did all they could, but they said her chances of survival were very slim. How did I get here? We are already well into November, yet I feel as though the cocktail party happened just yesterday. When News Winter unveiled the statue of the Sphinx, that looked exactly like the one I saw in my dream. It was as though I was struck by lightning. There in the front of me was the confirmation of the institution that clung to me since I've arrived here at the village. The feeling that there was something somewhere that would give me meaning to all this, something that I grasped at, but which slipped between my fingers like the trickle of water. Unfortunately, I was quickly caught up in everyday life. The term is already coming to an end. I'm buried beneath piles of papers to grade. Frank went back to the city 3 days ago. He has to supervise some work there. He told me he'd be away until the end of the month at least. I was glad he came back and told me after the cocktail party. After Stan, I was afraid he'd be mad at me, but he had the decency not to bring it up. This long absence, though, is he perhaps thinking of leaving the village for good? And then Stan tried to call me, or rather my voicemail has been completely delogged with his messages. He begged me to pick up the phone, that we had to talk. I didn't dare answer. I don't know what happened if I gave him a chance. Mrs. Del Toro, are you alright? You look upset. What happened exactly? How did she get in the accident? Here's what her sister told me. She took the cliff road to pick up her son, Jean Baptiste, and after his soccer game. That car seemed to have skidded on a patch of ice. It's terrible when I think of her son. Yet, as his class teacher, I count on you to be watchful. Jean Baptiste is going to need our support to get through this. Also, I'm sorry to talk about it under these circumstances, but I did want to see you anyways. I know you are only here for 6 months, and that you're probably doing the best you can. However, can I put it, your methods leaving something to be desired. I don't think you are really cut out for teaching. I must admit I've had a lot on my plate lately. These last months have been difficult for me. I understand, listen, there's no cause for alarm, not yet. But do try to put your heart into what you're doing a bit more, okay? Okay. Well, we have been over what I wanted to discuss, but may I ask you something a little personal? Of course. I'm listening. Stop me if I'm wrong, but how can I put this? There's talk in the village. I know you had words with Miss Lovekear at the cocktail party. Did you by any chance... I don't know how to put it. Well, let me just come out straight on with it. Did you by chance and reiterate the by chance having responsibility for Miss Lovekear's accident? Absolutely not. Don't tell me you're giving credit to the gossip. I'm a scientist and I absolutely don't agree with these primitive beliefs. Let me be serious for a moment, shall we? What do you think? That I have a voodoo doll of Miss Lovekear's to stick with needles in my attic at full moon? I'm very sorry for what happened to the poor woman, but there's nothing mysterious about her accident. It's a physical phenomenon that happens every winter that changes liquid water into ice, a solid that has the unfortunate property of making cars skid. Now, if you don't mind, the day's not finished yet, so if you'll excuse me, I'm sorry if I've upset you, Miss Duffy. It wasn't my intention. Mr. Chess said, as if today hadn't been emotional enough. When I get to the castle, I discovered a sports car packed in the front of the house. Of course, I guessed the identity of its owner. Walking to the hall, I find Seamus has let himself in and is sipping a glass of whiskey as he pursues the family portrait. My heart beats a little harder on seeing him here limping along. I feel a bit foolish, and I try to get myself together before I speak to him. I would have offered you a drink, but it looks like you've already taken the matters into your hand. I pour myself a good measure of the spirit in my cigarette. was open, so I let myself in, and I'm not sorry since you have kept me on tenterhooks for some time. I'm already on my second refill. I thought school teachers finished work much earlier, don't they? I was held up. Nothing, we need to talk. Look, at the state of my voicemail, I'm guessing you'd come over sooner or later. I'm listening. After all that's happened, I had to warn you, you need to know about our families, the village, and everything else. I sit on the sofa ignoring the armchair on the other side as the coffee table soon sits down beside me. If I could blame the alcohol for his behavior at the cocktail party, I can't continue to ignore the strong signals he's sending my way. Stan takes a deep breath and begins. Of course, there's my father, his projects, and the old quarry with the Deltors, and his sick obsession with the tower. But when I heard the British leaves, that's when I realized the situation was urgent. When I watched you do what you did at the cocktail party, I remembered everything I've heard since I was a child. All those unbelievable stories of witchcraft. I've never had any real proof that any of it was true, but when I heard she was dead, well, it's been haunting me all day. I had to tell you. I have to know, so I'm just going to lay it on line. Did you know what you were doing back there? I don't know what to think since I came here. I've felt things. Between the strange dreams, the castle, and everything I've heard about my family, yes, I wanted to believe. But now, if the stories are true, then that makes me a murderer. Come on. On the other hand, when Miss Louise attacked me on the cocktail party, I saw red. I wanted her to pay. I wanted her to suffer, but if I guessed for 1 second she'd end up dead, I'm overwhelmed by emotion. I realized I've been holding my tears back since the director broke the news to me. I burst into tears and Stan takes me into his arms. I let him. I'm torn by conflicted emotions. I think of Frank. He should be the one comforting me. I don't know why, but I feel that I can trust Stan. And I'm afraid almost that perhaps he understands me better than Frank ever did. A few minutes later, I timorously blink away the last tear. When he's sure most of the storm is behind us, Stan gently lets go of me and looks me straight in the eye while holding me by the shoulders and says, "Please forgive me. I've been terribly inconsiderate. Of course, you couldn't have known what would happen. I keep forgetting you are not from here, and besides, no one's told you what's happening in the village. So please, I beg you, don't feel guilty. It's us, the Martys, and others around here who should feel guilty for not warning you." Something else to tell me? I'm afraid I do. My father made you an offer at the cocktail party, didn't he? Well, yes, about the tower, right? He wants to gain access to it, if I understand correctly. Exactly. If he hasn't come to see you yet, it's because he's building his case for the town council. He's got Soline on it, and he's got her working day in, day out, personally. He wants everything settled before he tells you his plans. What can he really do to me? The house is legally mine. He can't throw me out just like that for no reason. Maybe, but I assure you it's no joke. Whatever happens, you must not accept. Why do you want me to refuse so much? I know yous like it or not. I've been dealing with him since I was born. He's a shark, and considering how much he resents the Deltors, I can assure you that whatever he proposes to you will serve his own interests, but more importantly, it will harm yours. What's so special about inside the tower? According to legend, the tower has been built on some kind of magical vortex. I feel a bit silly saying that. No, you're not. That would explain a lot. The Delftiers have always been an influential family in the area. Your family has kept to their traditions despite the law of the name Delator of the tower. goes from mother to daughter, and the eldest daughter has always been the spiritual guide of the community, a kind of Celtic grand priestess, if you see what I mean. Since the christening never really got very popular around here, as you have probably noticed, the story goes that your ancestors, the grand priestess, had a dispute with my ancestors, and my family had no choice but to curse yours to save their honor. Since that time, the Maltese have accumulated wealth and prosperity while the Deltors have declined. Fair enough, but all that happening a long time ago. Why keep such an old quarrel alive? Not only did I do nothing to harm your family, but it looks to me like the Maltese already have the upper hand, don't they? That's where the tower comes in. As I understand it, these blessings have a price, and my father wants to get into it to lift the curse that takes its toll on my family too. And the tower is the key to lifting the curse. But I can't let Yves get inside because he may want to harm me. Exactly. It may sound stupid, but I have to ask, do you know where the entrance to the tower is? No, but everyone in the village knows that it was condemned after the event that tore both our families apart. So why didn't anyone tell me? Don't judge the villagers too harshly. They naturally suspicious, especially when it comes to us. Should I brace myself for more revelations, or is that it? I guess I told you most of it, the crux of the matter anyways, but you must have 1,000 questions. Tell me about you. What's your life like? What do you want me to tell you? I don't know. What do you do with your days? Do you have ambitions? I can feel them closing up like an oyster. Without meaning to. I guess I've hit a sore spot. I'd like to be able to tell you I have an exciting and fulfilling life, but I'm afraid I'm just a lazy rich kid. I failed at everything I try. And it's not that I lack the capabilities, I just don't apply myself enough. Or at all. And that's probably worse. You're wrong. We barely know each other, and I'm already sure you're a good person. I talked to your sister at the cocktail party. She cares about you far more than you might think. She was singing your praises for the way you take care of your nephew. You're a long way from being just a lazy rich kid. Thanks, it's nice of you to say so. And I guess you're right. Solis and Perry are counting on me. I don't know what I'd do without them. And then I met you. I know it's a total cliche and a kind of soppy, and I hope you're not going to make tracks. But I think that for once I'd like to go a bit further than just fooling around. Me too. Me too. He doesn't let me finish the sentence, but throws himself at me and kisses me. There's a melancholic sweetness to his kiss that I hadn't thought he was capable of. Thank you. To my surprise and my frustration, Sis freezes me abruptly and sits back down beside me. Well, there it is. That's my life, broadly speaking. I don't do much with my time, to be honest. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I guess it's not as sexy as you thought. If you don't like it, it's never too late to change, you know? Sure, shall we talk about something else? Okay, I get it. I'll stop bugging you. Tell me more about your father's plans. As I told you, he wanted to get inside the tower, and I'm afraid he'll stop at nothing to do it. If I know him, he'll certainly try to win you over at first. He's currently building a case for the town council to open the tower to the public. In return, they would pay all the maintenance costs. It could be worth listening to his offer, don't you think? The cost to keep the castle afloat can't be sneezed at, and the money I get in the will isn't inexhaustible. I don't know how else to say it, and I don't have proof except for my own experience and the trust you may put in my word. But I assure you, to accept anything from my father would be a very bad idea. During your grandmother's time, he was resigned to not getting into the tower, but now things have changed. He He wants to take advantage of the opportunity. I'm sure he'll come up with a very attractive financial deal, and he's counting on your supposed naivety to get what he's after. Alright, let's say I refuse. What happens next? That depends. Depends on what? It depends on whether or not you believe in all this witchcraft stuff. It always comes back to that, doesn't it? Perhaps, but it is a very durable concept for most people who live here. And whatever you feel about it, Reeves is still a very real threat. You're not the first person to oppose him, but you've got a few cards up your sleeve that might make you the last. Tell me about your family. Your family, I'm curious. Can you tell me more about them? I think you've already grasped the nuts and bolts. First, there's my parents, Yves and Kolatha. Our relationship have been distant since I've been old enough to understand how they think. What do you mean? How can I sum up the martyr method? I would say manipulation and extortion under the covers of good breeding. And if that doesn't work, then they throw money in the general direction of the problem until it's kind enough to disappear. Troubling, but I'm asking myself, why would they stay in the village? I mean, with so much wealth, they could live anywhere, couldn't they? You mean somewhere less remote? You're not wrong, but don't forget they are very attached to the area. With their beliefs, they are much too afraid of losing their advantages if they leave, I guess. But everything I tell you is only suspicion. Yves had decided I wasn't fit to be the number one heir long before I was old enough for him to tell me any of their little secrets. And you? Haven't you ever thought about leaving? Of course I have, but Summer and her son are stuck here, and I couldn't bring myself to leave them alone in the belly of the beast. Sure, that makes sense. Besides, I strongly suspect my father is, to some degree, responsible for the death of Celine's husband. A good accident death, just the way he likes, whether it's supernatural or not. After all, seeing as his own son wasn't up to the task, he needed an heir to pass his fine values on to, right? But that's awful. Welcome to my world. Of course, I'm doing the best to protect Perry from all this, but I'm afraid I'm fighting a losing battle. He adores his grandfather, and of course, and with good reason, he can be a very charming guy when he wants to be. As for Celine, she always been kept out of it. She's always been the perfect daughter, and my parents, with their traditional values, didn't have many ambitions for her. I think all they wanted for their daughter was a good marriage that would preferably help the family affairs. Stan stops talking, his eyes far away. I'm lost for words. Finally, he breaks the silence before it becomes awkward. Well, that's it. Now you know everything. I think we've covered everything. There's still something I wanted to talk to you about. I can see in his eyes what kind of subject we're about to discuss, but when I be putting my chances to reconnect with Frank in jeopardy by getting involved in that? I think we've talked enough. As if he was only waiting for the word from me, he slips his arm around my waist and pulls me against him. We've exchanged a long kiss, very different from the one I received a couple weeks earlier at the unveiling. Without realizing exactly how it happened, Stan was half naked, and we're in my bedroom. We don't get much sleep that night. In the morning, I'm woken up by Stan stroking my cheek gently, a fresh cup of coffee for me in his other hand. I have to go. Thank you for last night. When Stan's dressed, kissed me, and left the room, I tell myself it's not a bad way to start the day. Days go by, and still nothing from Ives Frontier. I must admit, finding out about his plans has left me in a state of permanent apprehension. I try not to worry about it. I mean, really, what's the risk? Even if I decide to accept, in theory, the idea of a supernatural, I have an inexplicable sense of being untouchable, even from a so-called curse from the Maltese. Maybe it's a bit presumptuous, but I feel like my family name acts as a kind of lucky charm, protecting me from anything bad. And then there's Stanislas. I can confess I think about him more than I should, but I'm not sure I want to follow up on it. Frank is still in town and won't be back before the end of the month. I don't know what I should do. Should I tell him about Stan, at the risk of losing him again? Then there's the Voltaires. I haven't seen them in a while. Sometimes I think Solis Motier, I'm not sure I've got her figured out, but I think there was something going on when I met her at the cocktail party. Perhaps I could call her. Maybe we could see each other again. What should I do? I pick up the phone and call Stan. He's thrilled to hear from me and wants to meet up. Perhaps I ought to end things with him. Tell him that it was a one night stand. Or I could ask him to wait until I've worked things out with Frank. And there's a third option. I could see him again. Of course, that means lying to Frank. I've got an hour off school this afternoon. I could go to his place. I explain the situation that I need to talk to Frank first and that I can't do that to him. He makes me promise I'll talk to Frank, that I will straighten things out so that our budding relationship stands a chance. When I hang up the phone, I know what I should do, but do I really want to end things with Frank? What should I do next? Call Frank. Pick up the phone with the firm introduction, telling Frank everything that happened with Stan. I know it's always better to announce these things face to face, but I don't like the idea of starting a relationship without telling Frank first. While I'm waiting for him to pick the phone, I start to have second thoughts. Am I really brave enough to break up with Frank like this on the phone? Break up. He picks up. Frank is in a really good mood. I feel guilty ruining his day, but I need to be strong. I take a deep breath, and then the words tumble out of me in a rush. That it had been a mistake to let him believe we could pick up the pieces. That I had wanted to believe it was still possible too. That there was nothing we could do, but not after all we'd gone through, and after the child we'd lost. For a minute there was silence, and the line. Then his anger lashes out. I can taste his pain and the venom he pours down on me. He tells me I'm wrong, that I should wait for him, that he'll be back soon, that we have to talk. When I hang up the phone, my heart is shredded, but I believe I made the right decision. When I call Celine, she's surprised to hear from me, but she welcomes the idea of having a coffee together. We meet up in the afternoon in a small tier room with a terrace that looks out on the tree-filled square. Celine is waiting for me to cup in hand, watching her son who plays with the other children in the playground next to the terrace. The reason of the choice of the terrarium is suddenly clear, considering the strategic location it represents for the young mothers of the village. But since my miscarriage, I avoid these kinds of places like the plague, as they tend to dredge up a stew of bad memories. I try to keep my face composed, and as I sit down with Celine. I guess I don't do a great job since she asked me with a cunning face. Are you alright? Yes, sorry. It's kind of, it's this kind of calf with the playground. It reminds me of a time in life that was difficult. Oh yes, of course. What an idiot. I should have known, seeing as you're a Del Tor. What do you mean? Well, the Del Tors always had, childbearing issues. There's a hush. Sorry, that was inconsiderate. No, it's nothing, it's me. I should not let myself turn back to the page of my life. Seriously, or I'll never get past it. I'd rather not talk about it, if you don't mind. Yes, of course, I understand perfectly. We chat for a while. The conversation is frequently intrigued by peer reviews. who wants to show us a fascinating stone to ask for a cookie or to reconnect the incredible adventures that just happened to him in the playground sport. It's Celine who finally cuts to the chase, saying out of nowhere. So now that we're through the niceties, you can get to the real reason you called, don't you think? I'm fairly sure Stan has told you about my father's plan and you want to figure out more information, don't you? Our conversation suddenly became a minefield. I need to choose my next words carefully. You're wrong. I didn't call you for that, I promise. Really? When we met at the cocktail party, you seemed like a nice person. I wanted to get to know you a bit better. I'm a bit isolated, the one at the castle, and I just wanted to have a friend in the village. Is that true? In that case, I'm sorry. Perhaps I misjudged you. I was raised to distrust the Deltors, and even if you seem nice too, at the cocktail party I didn't believe you might really be different from the rest of your family. It's all right. I understand your reaction. Besides, you must realize I can't tell you anything about what's happening in the town hall. It would betray professional confidence. All I can say is that we're doing what we can to make a very attractive offer. Fine, and I wasn't asking. We stay on the servants for a while longer. The time sips another hot drink, and then the sun drops behind the trees and the temperature begins to fall. We say goodbye. I still don't know which foot I stand on with Celine, but I have the feeling that our conversation could have been taken a very different turn at any moment. What should I do next? Go to the Bertines. When I knock on the lodge door, Miss Routine answers. Miss Routine. Oh, hello, Miss. What brings you here? It looks as though she's put her knitting aside to greet me. Next to the fire in the armchair, I make out the silhouette of Mr. Routine. He looks at me over his newspaper, the local news, and puffs on his pipe as I enter the room. He nods me a greeting. I was just passing to see how you are. It's been a while since we saw each other. Yes, it has. Time flies. When my husband and I heard about Mrs. Levis, we felt terrible for the poor woman. It smells like another Maltier trick, if you ask me. I'm afraid it's not the Maltier's fault this time. You mean, yes, I think it's my fault. I don't know. How could I? No one told me anything. Oh, miss, I'm so sorry. If I guessed the legends were true. Did you hear that? We should have warned you. Mr. Bolton lays his newspaper down on his knees and regards us with a piercing gaze. Come on, Gilbert. You were saying just a couple of days ago that those stories were nothing but stories. What's done is done, Mrs. Bolton, but if you know anything, it's high time you tell me, don't you think? I get the feeling there's a lot of things I don't know about the village, my family, and the tears. Tell me what you know about the tower and the local legends. What do you want to know precisely? You told me that the Sphinx was the Tor coat of arms. Why? Yes, that's right. You could see it on the family crest. I think it's linked to the story of your family. You could see the Sphinx symbol all over the village, and you and the descendants of the family whose job was to protect the tower and its contents. Come on, I'll show you. Points on her coat. I follow her to the tower. She points out a shield with the coat of arms of the family carved into the outer wall. See? I can certainly make out a tower surrounding two sphinxes. We return without speaking to the lodge. But the sphinx has nothing to do with Egypt. It looks more like the one from Greek mythology, doesn't it? Like the sphinx that protected Davis, the one who asked Odysseus? The riddles, I suppose. Oh, well, miss, that I couldn't say. A few years ago, Rod and I were watching a documentary about Egypt on the TV, to ourselves, that looks like the statue in the village. Do you remember, Ron? Miss Routine mutters something unintelligible without glancing up from his newspaper. What they say is that the region is magical. It used to be a place of pilgrimage in the old days. People came to be healed or to join the festivities for the passing of the seasons. I could not tell you why, but the legend says that your ancestors used to perform miracles. My ancestors, the Del Toros? Yes, the Del Toros, but this was before they built the tower. I don't know what they were called back then. Also, your family had a duty to protect the village. As the place was magical, it attracted demons, and there were rituals to be performed so that the source of power wasn't polluted by these evil spirits. When the Christians colonized the country, the region closed in on itself. The village built the tower over the source to keep it secret, and the village became a place of remembrance. I didn't know this period. It was long before I was born. It was my grandmother who told me the stories of before the Maltese arrived. What have the Maltese got to do with all this? It began with Yu's grandfather, old Gustav Maltier. When he was a child, the Maltese fostered him at the castle because he had a gift for miracles. He was an orphan from a family of marsh folk. To be forced like that was very lucky for him, but apparently it wasn't enough. He wanted more. I knew him a little. He was already an old man, but he was a different character. I remember he used to give me the creeps when I was a girl. Anyways, I sensed that the Maltese began to amass their fortune. That's when the accident started to happen. If anyone went against the Maltese, something bad happened to them every time. And then the Del Toros began to wither away. In the end, there was only your grandmother left, and then you came. Why didn't you tell me all this before? You came from the city. You didn't know anything about all this. If we told you about spirits of the forest and magical sources, what would you have thought? And we thought it was just old stories. We were born in the time of the miracles, and we don't know much anyway. My husband and I. Tell me about Mrs. Lockyer. You seem to know her. I wouldn't exactly say know her. Let's say she was the talk of the town of the village some years back. Really what? Her husband was a brute, the type who drinks too much, if you see what I mean. There were several incidents. It went on for a few years. Beatrice Lockyer would never have filed for divorce, and Eve's material was very supportive when her husband disappeared. Disappeared, do you mean he died? No, well, I don't know. Just like that, he was never seen again. They say Eve's material drove him out of the village. Beatrice Lockyer was sure it was thanks to the materials, and as she worked at the town hall, well, it was best not to speak ill of Mr. Mayor when she was around. I see. That said, Hughes did a good thing there, didn't he? That depends. No one really knows what happened to Lockyer. And even so, one good deed doesn't redeem a lifetime of wrongs, does it? But that means her son, Jean Baptiste, is an orphan. Well, yes, but don't worry too much about it. His aunt took him in. You must know her. She's the wife of the fishmonger, you know, at the market. They have a good family. I'm sure they'll take care of him as if he was their own. I guess it's not such a bad thing then. Tell me about what you know about this curse. I can't tell you much about this, miss. The Zoltors were known to be miracle makers, but it's been a long time since anything like that has happened. It hasn't been in my lifetime, but in the old days, they used to say that your family had a gift. Can you tell me what happened with Mrs. Louise? Maybe it will jog my memory. Whichever happened. It must have been the words you said without realizing, and the Damn, bro. I'm pretty sure my grandma's a gypsy, so like, it's in my blood, kind of. What should I do next? Days go by then weeks. And East Winter is conceptuous by his absence. I tried to concentrate on my classes at school, but after all the revelations, my mind is often elsewhere. And then Frank is still always away, and I must confess I'm not looking forward to breakfast, breaking the news about Stan to him. I have to say I am having some difficulty focusing on my work. And to top it all off, the principal told me I was going to be inspected by the local education authorities, which adds to the general climate of my anxiety. I'm in the forest. It's the same dream again that I had last month. I had a scene of deja vu, but something has changed. I ran to escape the presence that follows me. Once again, I reached the pool in the clearing. I draw closer to glimpse at my reflection. It's a different image as though something has changed. But at the same time, it's more precise, almost more real. I'm wearing a black dress. My hair is very long, black, and straight. Something dark and powerful seems to emanate from my reflection. I look determined, sure of myself. I like it, so dangerous and provocative. I'm surprised to find myself thinking it would take much for me to become the Duff. It wouldn't take much for me to become the Daphne in the mirror. I took the reflection, and after a moment of darkness, I'm back in the garden. When I come to the statue of the Sphinx, her gaze is different. She looks ahead with definiteness and determination. That's where everything changes. I'm driven by the strength and stability that seems to emanate from the statue. This time I don't let myself fall into the darkness. This time I find the courage to turn around and confront the threat. The Sphinx stares, her gaze immovable. That's when I see the beast for the first time. We watch each other for a second that seems to last forever. Then the beast hurls itself at me. It's at that moment when its claws are poised to lacerate my belly that I shudder awake. Chapter 5, December. I'm getting ready to go to the market when I hear a car coming up the lane. I think immediately of Frank, who'd said he'd be back very soon and must be eager to see me. To my surprise, a large black sedan parks in the yard, and I see a large gray-haired figure emerge from the driver's side. I realize it's Yves. To be honest, more than 1 month after the cocktail party, I'd given up on waiting for him. He waves to me, goes around the car, takes a big file from the passenger seat, then walks in my direction. My brandishes the file like a trophy. Good morning, Daphne. As you can see, my daughter and I have been working very hard. I'm listening. Thank you for giving me a little of your time. You'll see it's a very attractive project. The general idea would be to open the tower to the tourists during the summer season. We could go do guided tours, and there's the library. You mean there's a library inside the tower? Oh, didn't you know? Haven't you been inside the tower? Interesting. Meaning? Never mind, would you mind if we go inside? We'd be more comfortable. It's rather chilly today. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Mr. Brontier walk up the lane, a rifle in hand. Oh, Miss Daphne, Mr. Maltier. He stands at my side, gun in hand, as if ready to use it. Are you alright? I hope Mr. Maltier isn't bothering you. Listen, girl, I'm just chatting with Miss Deltor. Would you mind giving us some privacy, please? Mr. Motor was about. We hear a car coming up the lane and directing our attention to the entrance of the yard. A small rental car drives and parks near the front door. A tall, middle-aged woman climbs out of the car and walks towards us with an assured face. Mom, I can see it's high time we got here. Looking at you, Walter, she says, "Hello, Daphne." Grenard? Yes, madam. Please fire a warning shot, will you? Miss Baltine looks at me, waiting for a confirmation as I told her not to improvise and fires into the air. His smile is gone and he watches her mother. Looks like be reasonable, would you? We haven't seen each other in 20 years. Do you really want playing your life? My mother turns to Mr. Linton. Yes, madam. Authorized you to fire the second shot at Eves if he hasn't left the property within 30 seconds. Very well, madam. Then please take my luggage up to the yellow bedroom in the west wing. Of course, madam. Oh, and send Gilbert over, please. I'd like to hear. I'd like her to make us a coffee. I need to talk to my daughter. I follow Mom into the living room. A few seconds later, we hear tires squirrel in the courtyard. Then the sound of the engine fades into the distance. Did you get my letter? Yes, but it's September. As you can see, I've already accepted the inheritance. Ah. I don't understand. Why did you want to marry me? Are you kidding? I arrived here to find these ones here in the courtyard and you're asking me why I warned you. I came back as fast as I possibly could, but it seems it was already too late. Doing an A job. When you got your scholarship and your life was on track, I didn't want to worry about your future any longer, so I decided to go back to school. I had enough of going from one crappy job to another, so I took a correspondence course on international trade. 3 years ago, I was hired by an investment bank. They offered me a promotion and a move to Hong Kong. Since you'd cut your ties with me, I thought you were safe, really safe from these family issues, so I agreed to go. How could I have known your grandmother would pull this trick on me? Even from her grave, she's still a nuisance. I sent you a letter as soon as I heard your grandmother was dead. The family notary contacted me about it out of courtesy. I wanted to take a leave of absence, but I was working on a big deal, and my bosses insisted that I stay until we signed. Obviously, it took a lot longer than I would have liked. Something doesn't add up. You were the direct heiress, so you should have been the one to succeed, shouldn't you? Your grandmother made me sign a paper stipulating that I re-announce the inheritance when I left the village. I thought it would protect you too, but I'm not a lawyer, and knowing what grandmother she was, I found a way to bend the law to her liking. Knowing her, she would have guessed it would happen that way. You'll have to explain. Grandmother seems to have planned everything to make sure I got the house, but you're telling me I should have refused the inheritance. I know there are strange things going on here, and this quarrel with the Maltese, but don't you think I had the right to know my origins? I don't think you grasped the gravity of the situation until now. Hughes didn't know you existed. Now he knows who you are, and that changes everything. Tell me then, why did you cut me off from the rest of the family? Why did you put so much effort into keeping me in the dark? Fine, listen to me carefully, and be honest with me, can you? I know an agreement. Have you been having strange dreams? Most of them have those recurring dreams about a phoenix and this kind of creature. I knew it. She cuts me off before I can continue. Have there been strange accidents since you arrived? scientific mind. Your need for proof. I only trust what I see. And certainly that's your best defense against what's happening in the village. I had noticed her entrance, but Mrs. Bolton is here with some coffee for us. Gilbert. Yes, madam. Tell her to come to the basement. Very well, madam. Will that be all? Now tell him to bring a pickaxe, please. Okay. I follow Mom to the basement. We go through the wine cellar, then we take a corridor. We go through one small room, then another, filled with stacks of old furniture. An old tapestry depicting a hunt almost entirely covers the wall in the front of us. I don't remember finding this room during my expedition to search for the tower entrance. Do you feel it? I move closer to the wall, wondering what my mother is getting at. And I do. I feel an almost imperceptible vibration that sends a prickle of goosebumps across my skin. Yes, some sort of... The word dries up in my mouth as I turn towards my mother and I read the profound sadness in her gaze. Just as I'm about to speak again, we hear a noise from behind us. Ah, here comes Gerald. Gerald, can you take down the tapestry, please? Mr. Boutine complies, and I hurry to help him. No, girl, do it, Dauphine. You'll get dirty. Mom, you are pushing it. Mr. Boutine is not your slave. Yes, you are right. I've hardly arrived here and I'm back to my old ways. When I left everything behind so that you wouldn't be raised with these horrendous values. Excuse me, girl, I'll be more considerate. You know, Mr. Gilbert and I are happy to lend a hand. And we're not doing it for you, but for your daughter. Just don't forget, we are retired. We are not as strong as we were. We moved the tapestry at the other side of the room. Mom and I are on one side, Miss Boutine on the other. Could you break the wall here? She points to a spot in the middle of the wall. There are some planks behind the plaster. It shouldn't give you much resistance. A few moments later, the planks that hid the entrance to the tower have been torn away, revealing a wooden door. While I never would have guessed the door was there. Mom opens the drawer of the nearby cupboard and takes out a large ornate key. Do you want to see what's inside, Gerald? Oh no, madam. I have plenty of time to look later. You must have a lot to discuss with your daughter. I'll head back to the lodge if you don't need a man along. Of course, thank you. Gerald gives a nod. Oh, and Gerald? Yes? Thank you for taking care of Daphne in my absence. We enter the tower, and after climbing a flight of wooden stairs, we come to a large room plagued in shadows. Mom takes a candelabra from a table and lights the candles with the matches that have been left next to it. Then she possesses to light the other candles around the room until the soft light gradually illuminates the large circular space. The floor is made of a huge garnet stone carved with interlacing geometrical shapes. The Celtic origins are obvious in the patterns used and the way ordination has been done, but they are very well preserved in contrast to most ancient ruins exposed to centuries of bad weather. The walls are covered with shelves loaded with documents, books with leather covered, and scrolls rolled upon themselves. We are silent for a while, then my mom says, "This is your inheritance, Daphne. What are all these books?" This is the memory of the village. The most ancient ones were written by our ancestors 1,000 years ago. The tower was built on the site of the old place of worship because there seems to be some kind of magnetic field that helps preserve them. Yes, it feels like this place is special. There's a strange quality in the air here. Is that why there's almost no dust and no moisture? Exactly. You are on the site of an ancient place of pilgrimage, a place where they performed the miracles. When the country was colonized and then inhabitants was forced to convert to the new religion, the region closed in upon itself. Our ancestors built the tower and began to compile all the oral knowledge of the old times. The Altors, the order of the priestess, welcomed the responsibilities of other cults. They came from everywhere, escaping persecution and doing what they could to ensure that their knowledge wasn't lost. Just sounded up, you're in one of the largest libraries of occult knowledge in the world. We returned in silence to the living room. The atmosphere is oppressive. I can feel what just happened will have a huge impact on my future. Mom takes an armchair. I sit on the sofa. Do you understand why Yves Multier must not, at any price, get into the tower? He already has the whole village under his thumb without having access to the archives. I don't know what he might be capable of if he could tap into all the knowledge containing in the tower. Exactly, for generations the Deltors have refused the Multiers access to the tower, and for good reason. But until now, it's been a losing battle. It's been several generations since a Deltor has been able to perform the miracles. That's why I left. I didn't want you to live in this perpetual conflict. Why do you think I could change things? Deep down inside, I've always known you were different. I tried to protect you as much as I could. I didn't want you to carry this burden. If we'd stayed in the village, your grandmother would have raised you as if you were the Messiah. I wanted you to be able to choose your own path. I have all the cards in my hand to avenge our family. The Motiers must pay for what they have done. Are you sure? Our family has duty, a duty to preserve the old knowledge and the duty to protect their area. You're the first Deltor in over a century who could take up the torch, and all you can think of is revenge. Of course, I'm not in any position to preach, but it's my duty to warn you before you commit an act you might regret. You're straddling down a lonely, difficult path, and I'll do my best to help you. But enough about all that. Tell me about your life and everything I've missed. Mom and I stay there for a while, chatting in the living room. Then I go and pick up some groceries in the market and prepare dinner together. Both of us enjoying this renewed affinity. A couple of days later, I'm at the bakery getting some bread. Just as I've paid and I am leaving, I find myself faced with Sosa's Meltier and her son. With a moment of surprise, then just as I'm about to greet her, she lets loose a torrent of yelling. Oh, well done. I'm glad I bumped into you. I haven't had the chance to congratulate you on the classy way you welcomed my father. I tried to be nice. I even agreed to have coffee with you, despite the reputation of the Deltors. And 2 weeks later, you greet my father with a rifle. You're lucky my son's here, or I'd... Don't you Maltese ever get tired of making all these unfounded accusations? Why don't you think for yourself, for once, instead of believing everything your father says? I thought we could be friends, but I'm afraid I've been wasting my time. I've been working on that file for a whole month, and you don't have the reason to give my father just 10 minutes of your time to hear what we've prepared, and it's me who's the bad guy? Take a look in the mirror, Delphine. I honestly don't know what my brother sees in you. Her attitude hurts, especially the way her father was manipulating her. What a shame. When I get back to the castle, I find Mom reading on the sofa. I tell her about the confrontation with Celine Mature and how unfair I thought she'd been treating me like that. Then I tell her I'm going out to get some air, that I need to think to calm down. Out of the blue, she takes me in her arms and holds me tight. I enjoy the moment of affection, so rare from her. I can till she feels bad for me, for the burden I've decided to carry, and the unjust enmity of the Maltese that I have to cope with. I put on a scarf and a coat. It's frosty outside, biting yet invigorating. A beautiful sunny winter day, which makes a change from the fog and showers we put up with all through November. I wander through the forest. I'm lost in thought and realize my feet have brought me to a small clearing. An oval pool at the center. I show her. As the temperature drops, the snow is falling again. I realize the day is dying and the last rays of sunlight disappearing behind the treetops. I know I should turn around, but go back to the castle before it's dark. Am I dreaming? I can't look away from the pool. I draw closer and closer until, without noticing, I'm in the water. The icy cold pierces my feet like 1,000 needles. The pain seems almost unreal, as if I was in a dream. I go a little further. I know it's a bad idea, but I can't stop myself. The water is up to my knees. I look at the reflection in the pool, but there's nothing strange about the Daphne. White as a sheet, sending a feverish stare back at me from the surface of the pool. Then suddenly I'm overwhelmed by the void, and a biting liquid cold enfolds me. For a while the darkness is complete. I'm in some kind of downy cocoon. The heat and the scent of the wood fires floods my senses. I hear distant voices, but I'm unable to move. It was lucky I found her there. If I hadn't gone hunting, bring her back around. I've been worried sick. She left 3 hours ago with the night. Did you call her man, Frank? Yes, I've spoken to him. He's coming back as soon as he can. Madame Sophie, come here. I think she's waking up. You gave us quite a scare. What happened? I was walking. I was just turning for home, and Gerald found you in the forest. You were unconscious, and you had fallen into freezing water. You were lucky to find you so quickly. Next to Mom, I see a mustached man in a suit. He snaps his briefcase closed and says, Dr. Zirkins, I'll be going, Miss Doltor, if you don't mind. You have been very lucky. If it could have been much worse. Thank you for coming so fast, Doctor. As for her knee, it's a fractured kneecap. There's nothing to do but wait for it to heal. She must have overused it, but it must take several months. She'll certainly have some trouble walking. I'll go get grandmother's walking stick from the hall. 2 or 3 days of complete rest, and she should be back on her feet. Here, I've signed you a sick note for work. Thank you, Doctor. I gradually realize that they're talking about me. I'm in the living room. There's a blazing fire in the fireplace. I'm wrapped up in a heavy mother blanket. I sit back on the sofa. When I put a foot on the ground to stand up, I feel a dull ache down my right leg. Careful, miss. You'll hurt yourself. The doctor said you had to rest. With a superhuman effort, I managed to blurt out, I think I will stay on the sofa. I lie down again and instantly fall into a dreamless sleep. When I come back to my senses, the fire is almost out, save a few glowing cinders. At the back of the fireplace, the cold light of the early morning comes through the window. Mrs. Bolton is asleep in an armchair opposite of me, wrapped up in the blanket. I hear noises in the kitchen. I put my feet on the ground. I can still feel the dull pain as I try to get up. A walking stick with finely worked brass pommel has been placed next to me. Leaning on it, I manage to drag myself to the kitchen. Mom is making herself a coffee, her back turned. Mom. Nothing, you shouldn't be. She stops and I read a sudden dread in her eyes. Daphne, your hair. I turn sideways to look in the mirror above the chest in the hall, and I discover with horror that several strands of hair around my face have turned gray. After a few days rest, I see Dr. Zirkins again, and he allows me to go back to work. He confirms I might have difficulty walking for some time. It's about it with all I've gone through recently. I guess I'll probably end up dying it. I had Frank on the phone, but he seemed to have other things on his mind. He seemed worried about me, though. He told me he would be back and that we'd have to talk. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know what he's prepping, but I'm uneasy. When I go back to school, a man in a suit is waiting for me in front of the classroom. He introduces himself as Mr. Mueller, National Education Inspector. He proceeds to take a seat at the back of the classroom and begins to take notes. My thoughts are elsewhere, and I lose the thread of my explanations several times, sensing his consensing gaze on the back of my neck, and his irritation with my every word doesn't help me focus. I hope that seeing me with my walking stick might make him more lenient, but it doesn't seem to touch him at all. At the end of the day, Mueller gives me a severe scolding, waving his arm and yelling that he had never seen anything like this, and that there would be consequences. Unfortunately, I don't have much to say in my defense. I let the storm blow over, trying to curtail the unpleasant moment as much as possible. When I get into my car to drive home, I'm fuming. I was driving to the yard. I see Frank's van already there. I'm glad he's back. He's been away a long time, and as I get out of the car, I see him waiting for me in the doorway. Daphne, hello Frank. We need to talk. I follow him into the room. I can see he's furious. I haven't seen him this kind of cold rage for a long time. Not since the day I took my things and left him 6 months ago. Relationship is at a turning point again, and I see to choose words carefully if I want to avoid a scene. I ran into your mother. She told me I should do what I had to do, and that you shouldn't wait dinner for her. Okay. She told me about your hair too, but I must admit it's quite a shock. We're quiet for a while, carefully avoiding each other's blows. Finally, Frank breaks the silence. Since you called me 2 weeks ago, I thought about things a lot. Talk about cold shower. I left for the city thinking we were picking up the pieces, that we were building something, and out of nowhere, just like that, you tell me you're seeing this Maltier. And on the phone, to top it all off, brave, classy. I didn't want to lie to you. It was hard for me too, you know. No, stop lying to yourself. It wasn't easy for you, huh? Well, did you think about me? But don't interrupt me. Let me say what I've got to say and let me leave. The time for excuses is over. I just came back to get my things and move out. And to think I was about to propose to you. I was buying an engagement ring when I got your call. I'm dumbstruck. Frank notices a small smile on his face. You didn't see that one coming, did you? Don't worry, I won't get down on one knee and ask you to marry me. I'll leave the pleasure to your little blonde hipster. I thought it was the inheritance and all the things you have gone through recently, that it would get better, but I'm afraid it's something else, unfortunately. I don't understand what's happening. You have changed. The people from the village are right when they say you adulterers are all witches. I saw what you did to that poor Miss Wilkers at the cocktail party. So why do you care? You won't have to put up with my reputation any longer anyways. I just hope you are not going to regret this later on. Throwing away our relationship just for this bullshit. Never mind. It's not my problem now. I've said my piece. Goodbye. I wish you joy of it all. Your castle and your Maltiers. He stands up and looks down on me with contempt. Then he leaves the room. When I hear the engine of the van disappear into the distance, I'm struck by the conviction that I will never be seen him again. I stay alone in the living room, dumbstruck for a long time after Frank has left. Then without warning, I burst into tears. How could he be so cruel? I'd forgotten how much he could hurt me. To blame me for embracing my legacy, my roots, and hours. As I walk across the house, I realize my mother has made herself scarce. I don't know whether I should be grateful or blame her for avoiding the situation. She can't pretend to not know that I'm there when each of my steps is followed by the chilled clunk of a walking cane on the old wooden floors. I go to my bedroom, get my cigarette, and light one and let myself at the foot of my bed in front of the mirror. The image reflects is the pale young woman, frail and lost, looking, and those gray hairs. So I came to the decision that my hair can't stay this way. I have to do something about it right now. I go into the bathroom and I search around frantically, certain that I've seen at some point a couple boxes of hair dye. A few minutes later, I find them at the back of the drawer, held in my grandmother's store. The label says Jet Black Permanent Dye. Sounds perfect, exactly what I need to show the rest of the world that I have to talk to Stan now that Frank has left. We have a lot to discuss. I start by giving him a call, asking him to meet me at the cafe in the village later this afternoon. Then I retire to the tower to read the archives, their wells of wisdom, waiting to deliver their secrets to me. At the end of the afternoon, I take my car to meet Stan at the cafe. He's sitting in a corner, and there's a large backpack on the floor next to him. He's reading a book, but he glances around the room at regular intervals. He's catching my eye, but goes straight back to his book. Guess he hasn't recognized me with my walking stick and my jet black hair. I sit across from him. Hello, Stan. Oh, Daphne, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you. What happened to your leg? I hurt myself, an accident in the forest. It wouldn't have been serious except I fell in freezing water. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you okay? What about your hair? I dyed it. My hair turned a bit white after the accident. Besides, since everyone's so sure I'm a witch, I thought I'd choose an appropriate color. I nod at his backpack. Going somewhere? Oh, not by choice. I don't know what happened between you and Yves, but he was seriously pissed. He threw me out in disgrace. I'm about to speak, but Stan continues. But I assume you didn't want to meet up with just to listen to me complaining. Did you talk to Frank? Yes, it's done. He left. His face lights up in a mixture of incredulity and joy. Really? Does that mean you and I can move on together? I'm at a crossroads for the second time in a year. My ex just left me for good. I can start something serious with Stan. I can see that's what he's hoping for. And considering his circumstances, that would mean asking him to move in at the castle. Am I ready to do that? Jared. He supports the witchcraft, man. Come live with me at the castle. Just waiting for the one word from me. Stan pushes aside the table and separates us from the pulls me into the area and kiss. What are we waiting for? Let's go. We pace the bill, and a few minutes later we're home, about to start a new chapter of our story. The holiday season arrives fast. I spent it at home with Mom and the Bertines. Mom wasn't happy about Stan moving into the castle, but he put forth all his effort to win her over, and now she's tolerating him being in the same room. Yves Maltier hasn't shown up, not since he came to present his offer to me and Mom got in the way of his plans. I've decided not to worry about it for the time being. I need time to get my head around everything I've learned. I spend most of my time in the tower learning about my family's fascinating past and the past of the area. I'm glad now that I waded through several years of Latin at high school, even if I never had guessed it would be useful in such unlikely circumstances. The stories inside the illustrated books are quite captivating, especially everything that refers to the source and those who covet it. I still have the strange dreams, but they're different now. I'm still in the forest, but there's no more pool, no more sphinx. Perhaps because of all that has already happened. Every time the dream ends with my encounter with the strange beast, we watch each other. I feel like it's trying to tell me something, but it can't speak, as if it wanted something from me, and then it turns away and disappears into the bushes. Chapter 6, January. Then classes started again. I managed to get Dr. Zers to extend my leave. He wasn't very hard to convince. My leg isn't healing fast, and the pain still often wakes me up at night. It allows me to keep practicing the miracles day after day. I feel more and more ready to confront the Maltese. I spent a lot of time in the forest. I tried to find clearing on the pool I fell into without success. Of course, I asked Mr. Benton. He said he found me soaked to the skin, but there was neither clearing nor pool where I was blind, and there are all these unanswered questions about my family and the Maltese. One day, as I'm reading through a Latin copy of the Red Dragon, more precisely the section about necromancy, the station saying comes to me. Why not try to invoke the spirit of my grandmother? I'm pretty sure a little talk with her could help me fill the gaps. At the right phase of the moon and planetary hour, I go into the forest for the ritual. I trace the lines on the ground with a consecrated knife, imposing the mark of my will upon the earth. Then I speak the words of power. A strange wind rises, bending the branches of the nearby trees. Suddenly the magic circle flares up with a cool and sick fire. A form appears in the center of the fire. It's a woman withered in flames, her face ravaged by pain and despair. I'd expected an old lady, but the woman before me is middle-aged, with a striking resemblance to myself. She looks at me, anger and sadness combined in her face, and before I even open my mouth, the ghostly version is already fading. I made an effort of will force from the flame to remain. Adina, what is this depth for me? The Maltese, a new way to torment me. I am damned adulterer, granddaughter, I command you to answer me. She exploded into laughter. I knew this would happen. Sophie, my daughter, it's all her fault. If she hadn't left, if the child had been raised in the tradition, I feel my grip on Alistair's spirit slipping. If I wouldn't answer, I'd have no genitals. What do you know about the beast that haunts me in my dreams? What do you know about the beast that haunts me in my dreams? An invisible entity, it covers the source to feed from it and continue its existence in our world. The Maltese, they have been feeding it with the blood of the Deltors in exchange for its help. Sophie, I thought it would stop with her when she and the Eves, but the Maltese blood was stronger than their union. He performed the rite. She and Eves. What happened between Eves and my mother? He killed my grandmother, as happened before, and as will happen again. To me, to my mother, to my grandmother before her, to my daughter, to hers, to her children after her. I don't talk to Mom right away, there's no way I'll be able to sleep. When I get to her bedroom door, a ray of light escapes from the gap beneath it. Despite the lateness of the hour, I'm raising my hand to knock. Gently, when my mom says enter, especially the sound of the walking stick and the floorboards warned her of my presence. When I open the door and go in, I find Mom reading a novel by the light of the bedside lamp. Nothing. Mom, we have to talk. I'm sure it can wait until tomorrow, can't it? I think it's waited long enough already. What's so urgent? I talked with grandmother. You just talked? No, don't explain. I'm not sure. I want to know the details. What happened between you and Yves Meltier? There's an awkward silence. Mom lays the book on her lap and takes a deep breath. I knew the business would resurface sooner or later, and it didn't occur to you that don't know. You might let me know first. I would have preferred to hear it from you. It would have saved me the trouble of using necromancy to fill out the blanks. I'm sorry, Daphne. When I arrived at the castle, there was so much to tell you. I figured it could wait, that there was no hurry. Then you had your accident and the weeks passed. There were the holidays, and then you started to spend most of your time in the tower. It was never the right moment. But I swear this time I'll tell you everything. Let's start at the beginning. Were you romantically involved with Yves? Yes, we had a fling. It ended more than a year before you were born. It didn't last very long. He was different back then. You must realize he wasn't the man he's become. We both wanted to be free of the prison of our families. Your grandmother had a hard time accepting it at first, but she realized quickly that an alliance could put an end to the old quarrel. But to the Maltese, it was scandalous. Maltese's hair getting mixed up with the Del Tors. They put all their efforts and ingenuity into breaking us up. As they succeeded, Yves broke my heart, and all our plans went down the drain. What happened next? It took me a few months to get myself together. I did something I'm not proud of during the time. I wanted to hurt Yves as much as he'd hurt me. I slept around. I wanted to get a reaction from him, to make him see it was stupid. I know that now, but we were only 18, and then I got pregnant. So who's my father, do you even know? No, I've never been sure. And it didn't matter, not to me, nor to your grandmother. It was the tradition. Women have always been at the head of the house, Del Tor. Some of our ancestors took partners, as your grandmother did, but most remained single or had several lovers during their lives. The fact that there was no father was somehow the way things were meant to be. The only thing I'm sure of is that it wasn't used. And then, was it your pregnancy that made you leave the village? In a way. Not hesitate to talk. I get the feeling I'm getting to the heart of the problem. Mom, I have to know. I feel like there's something huge that you're not telling me about my birth. It can't go on any longer. Do you understand? She looks at me distraught. I realize we're dredging something up, something she tried to forget to bury for all these years. It wasn't the pregnancy that made me leave. It was the death of the baby. A shiver runs down my spine. I'm taken back of what I went through myself only a year ago. You mean, did you lose a child before you had me? I don't understand. I was expecting twins. It was your sister that I lost, Daphne. It's Yves Maltier's fault. My head is spinning. I tell her I need to go to the bathroom, but in truth, I need a moment alone in the living room. I need a cigarette. A twin sister, how could she hide it from me all of these years? And the fact that she lost her, it changes everything. How could you have hidden losing your baby? My sister. She looks at her face. Wait, would it have changed? Besides, how can you blame me for keeping it quiet when you went through the same thing yourself? I don't look at me like that. You had your accident. We were talking in your sleep. It wasn't hard to put the pieces together. It's your curse. It's our curse. We're eccentric. Since my tears offered our children in the sacrifice. These prayers sacrifice my baby. It's the only explanation. Each generation of Maltese offers the firstborn of the Daltonors. That's how they took power in the village and how they keep it. Generation after generation. They have weakened our pride. Your grandmother was sure that because you survived and were in fact the firstborn, you'd be the one to break the cycle. That's why I left. I didn't want her to have any say in your upbringing. Your expectations of you would have been unendurable. But she was right after all that happened. How can I doubt the truth of the old legends any longer? Anyways, life goes on. I know what you went through must have been hard, but if I could get through it, I'm sure you can too. We look at each other. That's when Mom understands. She finally understands the truth that I can't grow out loud, not without breaking down. There won't be any other children. Open your mouth, but no words come out. So did your mom say anything? I understand. I both said, yes, I think so. My mom's just told me comforts. I suspect another I would to myself. Please once you he wouldn't be responsible for the death of my sister. And as the death of my child, maybe even for her. God has been by him and dangerous. I know I've been too passive. I know I have to act. That's it. This time, I'm furious between the Maltese, who have been manipulating me and take me for an idiot, and my mom, who keeps stuffing me from. I feel like I'm between the hammer and anvil. It has to stop. I could confront Hughes immediately. I've waited long enough. If he's able to destroy a life with a snap of his fingers like that, someone has to stop him. But perhaps charging right in isn't a good idea. I think of Soima too. You know, she's the Hughes. She and Hughes are close, at least at work. She must have some information about him. What Hughes is planning. I know we've had a falling out, but I hope I'll be able to persuade her to help me. And I could ask Stan for his advice. He'll be able to help see things more clearly. What should I do? Let's talk to boyfriend. When I get to our bedroom, Stan's getting ready for bed. Duffing, you are upset. What's wrong? I tell him everything. My sister, the child I lost. We talk about his father and his family. So what do you think? I don't think Soline knows anything. Yves has already done his best to keep her in the dark. But I agree with you. You have to do something. Yves won't expect you to come knocking at his door in the middle of the night. He's already dressed and is taking his keys and his money clipped from the top of the chest. Shall I get the car? Okay, let's do this. We get into the car, and shortly after, I'm knocking on the door of the private wing of the town hall. I see the light filter through the frosted glass. The door is thrown wide open. Yves, dressed in the bathrobe, stands smirking. Ah, Miss Deltor, what a surprise. I confess I hardly recognize you. Have you changed something since the last time we saw each other? Never mind. What brings you here so late? If you've come to give me my son back, I apologize, but adoptions are irreversible. No, it's not that, is it? Let me guess, you've reconsidered my offer? But I knew you were a clever young woman. My wife confirmed, well, I can't conceal she's not very fond of you, but she could testify. I always said you'd see the light in the end. So, You killed my sister. All such perplexity, and it only took you 6 months to reach this conclusion. There's anger in your eyes, and perhaps some fear. If it comforts you, I didn't get any pleasure out of it. I only did what I had to. Can you how can you justify such an act? It's simple. Family. Are you kidding me? Don't use your family to justify your actions. You're in no position to moralize, Daphne. We have much more in common than you care to admit, you and I. What's that supposed to mean? I don't know. Something tells me Miss Lloyd would agree with me. If she was still with us, I mean. But I see you'd rather bury your head in the sand. Go home, it's late. And don't think I'll take your threats lightly. There will be consequences, I promise you. I hope you'll be more animable the next time we talk. He slams the door in my face. I toss and turn for the rest of the night. Something tells me Ives Montier wasn't making an empty threat. Next morning he's going to appear. A sword down the domicile of my mother. When I'm called to the office for the second on the second class, and then I'm to his house the third time. She had a call from Mrs. Portine that there had been an accident in the castle. I was coming running to my car and rushing back home. I see the smoke eyes above the treetops. Before I even reach the corner in the castle. As I drive in, I find Mr. Bergstrom watching, and in shock. He's surrounded by a team of firefighters. One of them comes towards me and serious. Are you Miss Del Toro? Yes, I am. What happened? Oh, madam, I'm Captain Robin. There was a chimney fire on the second floor in the wing of the main building. Gerard called us. We were able to intervene quickly. Where's my mother? Is she? The witch catching my throat. We called the Anna's Mary. They're already taking her to emergency stand. We were able to get to her quickly, but I'm afraid her chances of survival are slim. Yeah, how did it happen? We think your mother started a fire in the chimney of her bedroom. The fruit must have caught fire, and the smoke would have spread across the whole floor. We found her unconscious by her bedroom door. We evacuated her and extinguished the fire. With this kind of accident, death occurs after 3 to 5 minutes of smoke. Exposure. It's a miracle she was still alive when we found her. Raises his hand suddenly and relax. Oh, Miss Daphne, it's all my fault. If I had known it would be ages since the bedroom chimney has been swept. No, it was an accident. We were aware of the first of the fire fast and later. As soon as you discovered it, you couldn't have done anything more. Do you know where she has been sent? We may be a small town, but we have a small emergency center at least. You know, you'll find her there. I spend the evening at the hospital. The doctors tell me that Mom still hasn't regained consciousness and that her chances are extremely slim. Stan arrives soon after, and we wait tensely in the waiting room, hoping she'll come around, hoping the doctors will tell us we can see her, and hoping they'll say, at least, that she's going to be all right. I'm glad to have Stan with me. We just got together. He hardly knows me. He could have left any time. Having him here with me, waiting anxiously for a sign with the doctors, it's touching, really. I've just fallen asleep, curled up on the chair in the waiting room with a man in the coat wakes me up gently. It's official. Sophie Newton, deceased, cause of death, carbon monoxide poisoning from smoke inhalation. Stan takes me home without saying a word. Days pass me by in a daze. I've lost all notions of time. Is it Wednesday, Thursday? I don't know anymore. Not anymore. Getting my mother back just to lose her again so suddenly. It's Ives Montier really responsible for her death? Is all this nothing but some cosmic curse that will continue to pursue me since I lost the baby, the inheritance, moving house? I'm lost. I hear the doorbell. There's somebody at the door. It's used back to torment me. I don't have the strength to get up, even less so to go answer the door. I wait for someone to answer. I call Stan. There's no reply. Has he gone out? The doorbell rings again. I crawl off the sofa into the entry hall. I hesitate again. Then I muster up the courage and open the door. There's a middle-aged man waiting behind the door. He's well powdered with flour, which tells me a lot about his job. Hello, Mr. Hur, I'm Jerome the baker. Hello? I don't think we've met. I'm usually out the back, but you may know Brigitte, the last who worked the counter for me. Oh, it's nice to meet you. The pleasure is all mine. I came to give you this from the shop owners. He gives me a bouquet of flowers. When we heard about Sophie and we all chipped in, I take the bouquet. Besides, before we didn't dare, but now that you're here, those Maltese assholes, I'm sure they're behind all this. We're counting on you to show them, right? But, excuse my language, but I'm angry, you see. Did you know they almost got me shut down? Old Maltese, he tried to steal a piece of my land. Since he's been running the town hall, he does what he wants with the land register, the dirtbag. And just like that, the next day I fall off a ladder, 3 months in plaster. I wasn't fit for anything. I had to hire someone to work the session. The Berkshire, maybe you met them. It was back when you arrived in the village last summer. I'm sure they had their hands in the till. Well, look, I'm talking too much, but I just wanted to say that we're behind you against that family of creeps. I saw what happened to your mother, the fire and all, and I'm sure you've had enough too, haven't you? And yet I don't get the feeling I was particularly welcome when I arrived in the village. That's how people are around here. They're scared shitless of the Maltese. But now that they have seen you with your black hair and walking stick, well, I guess they are even more afraid of you. Anyways, it's a high time it all stops, don't you think? Yes, they must pay for what they've done. I agree with you completely, and I'm certainly not the only one. So, well, this was just to show you our support. And if you need anything, you know where to find me. Have a good day, Miss Deltier. I stand on the doorstep a bit stunned as he gets back into his van, making an awkward U-turn and disappears around the bend. I have to admit, that was the last thing I saw coming. Thinking about it, if a land registry quarrel equals a broken leg on the Maltese response scale, I understand much better why they're so virulent against me. The rest of the week goes by in an atmosphere of tense expectations. I know he hasn't had his last word. Stan doesn't all he can to make my life easier, but watching him coming and going, glooming around the house doesn't cheer me up. He tries his best to reassure me, but I can tell he's very worried about what his father might do next. Mr. Bonteen went into the wing to evaluate the damage. It's not as bad as we thought. A fresh coat of paint, some new curtains, and he assures me it will be as good as new. The wardens have been particularly distressed by my mother's passing. Mr. Botier is even more impenetrable than usual. As for Mrs. Botier, she made herself very scarce. I doubt she's been outside the lodge much in the last few days. And now people from the village begin to come up to the castle. Some of them ask for advice. Others want me to try to cure them. But what's touched me most is all these people reach out to offer me comfort during this trial. So when the day of Mom's funeral arrived, I'm only half surprised to see the cars arriving one after another to the castle. I guess I can thank the Boltiers for spreading the word. We're all gathered here at the edge of the forest to honor my mother's memory. I wanted to honor her passage to the other world according to the old rites, so as we could not build a funeral prayer as tradition demands, I dedicate to scatter her ashes. I know most of you hadn't seen my mother for over 30 years since she was cast out of the village by the Maltier family. Seeing so many of you here come to bid her farewell warms my heart. I open the urn and allow the ashes to scatter on the freezing wind. My vision is blurred by tears, but I have to be strong. not allow evil material to terrorize you any longer. He must pay for all the evil he's done, and it's high time the Dutors took back their place in the village. Really? You must have witnessed the scene. Pushing through the crowd to approach me, everyone watches him. When he reaches me, he looks down at me with a concerning air. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Mrs. Bolter nod sadly and move off towards the ledge of the brisk pace. Eves turns to the crowd. All of the faces gathered here today, I know them personally. How many of you feed your families thanks to this sawmill? He points at the man in the crowd. You, Mr. Bernal, didn't I lend you some money when you wanted to open your cobbler shop? He turns to someone else. And you, Mrs. Lindner, when your husband died and you couldn't make ends meet, who found you a place to live? A murmur runs through the crowd. All of you, at one time or another, have turned to my family to ask for help. And now what? You stab me in the back? You disown me after everything I've done for you? You put your trust in a stranger? As Hughes puts a dramatic hand at his head, a vision of profound disappointment summons in the crowd and cries out, "But she's a Devoltor." A Devoltor? For over a century, the Devoltors have kept the source to themselves, refusing to share our shared heritage. What's left to their ancient glory, a decaying castle? What have you done for the village, Daphne? While I'm listening, what have you done? These glares at me, and I know I need to choose my next words carefully. You asked what I've done for the village ever since I've arrived. Barely 6 months ago, you've done nothing but torment me. I never wanted any of this. You thought you have tried to intimidate me time and time again. You are only goal to chase me from my family. Daphne exaggerate. All I wanted was for our families to work together. Work together? Are you kidding? When I didn't yield immediately to your demands, you decided to use force to get what you wanted, as you always do. There's murmurs around us. For the first time, Eve seems ill at ease. You have put a spell on them. This isn't right. Says you, whose family has been using witchcraft for years. Go home, Eve, and you are making a fool of yourself. You think you have power, but as soon as anyone refuses to bow to your rule, your house of cards collapses all on its own. I warned you. I cut him before he can finish the sentence. You warned me of what? That your responsibility for the death of my mother? Don't push me. You don't know what I'm capable of. No, I don't want. I don't want. Are you capable of? Do you tell me? He mutters something under his breath. Speak up a bit. You have got the perfect audience. Look, your fellow citizens are hanging onto your every word. He stares at me in a mix of rage and impertinence. Maybe his gaze. We look each other in the eye for a long moment. Until he looks around. You know the way out, as you might have guessed. You're not welcome here. I turn away, about to push through the stunned crowd and witness the scene. Somebody in the crowd cries out a warning. I don't have time to turn when I hear a gunshot. Hughes collapses at my feet, his hand red with blood, clutching his right shoulder. A few yards away, Mr. Bolton holds his hunting rifle, the barrel smoking, the dead curls floating up to the sky. Epilogue Spring. Daphne. I'm in the garden enjoying the first of the sunshine with a good book and a cup of tea. And I've got Sam Crowley just back from the courthouse, drags me from my readings, even if I hadn't doubted the outcome of the trial. He smiles face in the frame and talking the good news. Besides, since the incident with Hughes, the materials have made themselves scarce. They say the village that Hughes doesn't leave the town hall much anymore, and that his convenience has been difficult. I don't know what the future has in store, but I hope this that the storm is now finally behind me. So what's the verdict? He was acquitted with the number of witnesses who testified in his favor. The judge had no choice. And then what tipped the scale on the side of self-defense was the testimony of Mr. Blankard, the baker. He swore under oath he had seen Reeves Mitchell take a knife from his pocket. I guess that, for once, no bribe could have changed the verdict. Oh yes, I dropped him at the lodge. But you know what he likes? He never shows his feelings. I came right away to tell you the good news, but I have to go back into town. I've got a few errands to run. See you tonight then. Stan kisses me tenderly before disappearing into the house. I pour myself another coffee and sit, lost in thought. That's when I see a tall blonde figure coming up the path. She's striding purposely towards the castle, but when she sees me in the garden, she hesitates briefly and heads in my direction. Hello, Miss Diltor. I was going to knock, but when I saw you, I thought I'd come directly to you. Colin Mattoon looks ill at ease and seems to have traded in her habitual haughtiness for disunity. Horrifying. Very surprised. Can I offer you some coffee? No, thank you, but if you'd give me a minute of your time. A sigh escapes me as I wait her to take a seat. I'm listening. I have to admit I underestimated you. I never would have believed on seeing you that you could have stood up to my husband for so long, or that you would make yourself so popular in our little community. Come on, Clyde, stop trying to butter me up. Apologies don't suit you. You're right, that might be because I haven't had to apologize for anything for a very long time. Anyways, as you might have guessed, I'm not here for that. I'll cut to the chase, if you don't mind. As soon as Mr. Baltier's trial finished, I came straight here. The verdict wasn't a surprise, and I've been mulling this over for a while now. You know my husband, he has his shortcomings and his good qualities. I suppose you don't see it like that, but I promise you, he has a good heart, despite what you might think. I'm about to interrupt her, but she stops me with a wave of her hand. Please, Daphne, hear me out before you start insulting me. I'll tell you something that might surprise you. I've never really believed in all these tales of witchcraft. Oh, I can see their benefits, but let's be serious for a minute. How can you say that after everything I've experienced since I've arrived? There can be no doubt. You are entitled to your beliefs, Daphne, but let me ask you, what proof do you have that anything truly supernatural happened? Since you arrived, what actually happened? A car accident or a chimney fire? There's a silence. Well, never mind. Sorry to be blunt, but your views on this subject doesn't interest me at all. However, you may have noticed that my husband is a true believer, and the recent events between you and us really took a toll on him, you know? I don't think he'll ever forgive you for making him ridiculous in front of the whole village, and now, with the judge's decision, it was bound to happen sooner or later. After all, he only got what he deserved. You're right, Daphne, and believe me, I deplore that things have come to this pass as much as you do. I just want this to be over, once and for all. Neither of us have anything to gain by keeping our lawsuit alive. I know I can make my husband listen to reason, but for that, I need you to meet me halfway, Daphne. Do you understand? I know you have a relationship with my son. All I'm asking is that you let us organize a wedding. We'd give you our blessing, of course, and it would unite our two families and put an end to our quarrel. What do you say? Let's say I accept. Are you sure you can persuade your husband to call a truce? Oh, he won't like it, I'm sure, but I can guarantee his cooperation. In any case, I'd need to discuss it with Stan. Come on, Daphne, we both know that my son will agree to anything you ask of him. If you prefer, just give me an agreement in principle. I have every confidence you can convince your future husband. So what's it going to be, yes or no? Your terms are reasonable. I'll accept your offer. Excellent. In that case, we'll be in touch. I'll let you talk to my son. As for me, I'll make sure my husband agrees to all this. Up and brings leave. Oh, and one last thing, Daphne. Be nice and let ease into the tower. I don't know what you expect, but letting him consult the archives won't cause swarms of locusts and rivers of blood. She turns and leaves. I watch her until she disappears behind the trees. After my top of plan, things went very fast. Stan, of course, had his doubts about my decision, but I managed to convince him it was the best course of action. He would have tied the knot sooner or later. His enemies told them this door for his school. We could finally come out of all this with hands held out. Time passed. Days are longer. Little by little, lives, each of one of long stories. Then the day of the wedding came. We did it according to pagan tradition on the day of the summer solstice. As the knot was tied, sealing off the ankle, I felt a cold draft on the nape of my neck and a sense of relief, as if our union had broken some kind of cosmic particle that had weighed down both our families in Thailand. I carried on putting the archives of the tower in order. Every year when I approached my camp less and less frequent, until we stopped to tell me. I don't know what happened to the strange beast. I had seen it hastily, but I even wonder if it really existed. I started teaching myself all forms of magic. I couldn't count. I could get my hands on it. I have to know more. I have to prove to myself that all this is true. I'm well aware it's a losing battle, but that the magic will never allow me to formally confirm its existence. And I have begun to take a backseat in the daily life of the village. Bro, you literally summoned a fucking ghost. What do you mean? It's for sure confirmed. What's the point? Anyways, people are scared of me, but at least they leave me in peace. For then, my home has become the castle of the village. Without the multiverse to remind them of the weight of tradition, I know all this will disappear, that I myself could disappear into the ground. After all, it's the way of the world. I'm nothing more than the last man endangered species. The village hasn't changed much. Volunteers continue to put bread on the table for most of the population. If this number, as my wife promised the others, has stopped equality to these hands. The castle hasn't been unexpected consequence. Unexpected accidents since the fire because Sid has started studying law again, and he's working with someone who eventually get into business. They're doing their best to try to save us all. We take things out time without forcing restraints, and then the road we share. Could things have turned out differently? I wonder about that from time to time. What would have happened if I had chosen another partner to share my days, my troubles? If I believed in magic more, or on the contrary, doubted? If I'd given in to anger, to despair, or perhaps to calm, to vehemence? Would my life be different? Would I myself be different? I don't know. I've gone with the flow. I've done all I could. I've dangled over the principle for a long time, clinging to the comfort of my certainties, of my doubts. The void consistently calling to me. I've let my feet guide me, one after the other, along the edge. Heart of darkness. Love at first sight. Big happy family. I got an achievement called Orphan. And that was Along the Edge. What a beautiful game. Thank you all for watching with me. This was just really nice.